October 27th, 2021. First up on the agenda is correspondence and planners update.
Sure. So some of the correspondence that we've received is from residents of Century Mill Estates. They've asked for time on the agenda, on the upcoming agenda, to discuss their interest in the board pulling the bond at that subdivision and getting the road accepted at annual town meeting. Thought we should maybe discuss how you might like to handle that.
Okay. Okay, so part of it is, I mean, I think right now we have some questions in general on what the legal requirements are for pulling a bond. And we're waiting to hear back from town council. Until then, there's nothing we can really do on that. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I think once we understand that, and we understand what the process needs to be, then then we can have a more intelligent conversation about what the process is, what we need to do, all that sort of thing. And that, I mean, I think, realistically though, I mean, for this and the other development that, that has been talking about this, it'd have to go to town meeting, it'd get approved there, then, or not, whatever. And then we'd have to hire an appropriate overseer, a general contractor or a project manager, somebody to go through everything, finish it all up. And it's probably, I mean, realistically would be the May 23 town meeting, but when we would look at, when either of these would be ready to accept, just the way that it would, just the timelines that are involved in it. Yeah. Or at least that's my take on it. I don't know if anybody else has different thoughts on it.
No, I agree. I think we want to hear back from the lawyers, because this would be something for spring town meeting, regardless.
Yeah, I think what we need to keep in mind on it is, technically it is the even though it's a bond, it is the town, it is the developer's property per se. So we're basically taking that from him. So it's not something that we can do lightly, and I want to make sure that we're not, just getting the whole thing tied up in court for years and years and years with because we didn't follow exactly what we needed to do, because that's not going to benefit anybody. So I mean, I think it's fine to put them on to to kind of give them that update and hear out their other concerns, but I'm not sure what's left on Century Mill to that needs to be done. I'm not sure what's left on that punch list.
Yeah, I was reviewing the punch list earlier today, and it's it's a 20-point list that includes the measures that you'd have to take to get to road acceptance, as well as what is left in terms of site improvements for those two phases of the development. Mm-hmm. So it's certainly it's a lot of work, and the board only just spoke with Andy at the end of September. It feels like longer ago than that, but it was just about a month ago.
Well, he's had all, he had all summer to finish everything up, but
Good, yeah. Yep. Okay, so would you like that to be on an upcoming agenda, or would you like me to tell them that we're gonna wait for legal guidance?
I think you can tell them that we're waiting for legal guidance, and if they still want to talk, then I'm okay with giving them 15 minutes or whatever to
Okay,
I'm not sure there's not a lot that we can listen and nod supportively, but I'm not sure there's a lot that we can do to on it. But let's I don't want to shut them out of the and not hear their concerns on things.
yeah. Okay. And then we got a request from another Century Mill Estates resident for a certificate of occupancy. I have let them know that with their particular case, it looks like they purchased a foreclosed property, and they're thinking that because they purchased it as a foreclosed property, that there may be some legal loophole workaround where they don't need to wait for the developer to come through on the items that he needs to come through on before we issue other certificates of occupancy. So I just want to let you all know that I'm having that discussion with this resident, and it's unfortunate, but we'll keep trying to work through that. We also have a request from residents of Moderator Way they would like to hire someone to construct a cluster mailbox at the bottom of the road, because they've been living there for a couple of years now and they're not getting mail yet. So I believe this would constitute a minor modification of the subdivision. I understand that the residents are quite organized and want to get this done quickly, but I also do want to make sure that it's formalized and that the developer is fully aware of the process and what's going on. In case of any future problems, I want the residents to be more protected. So that might be coming forward later. The comprehensive permit application for 580 Main Street. This is the 229 unit rental building at the Bolton Office Park, has been submitted. So that public hearing process will begin November 8th with the Zoning Board of Appeals. On to some other good news. This is good news. We got the Green Communities grant in the amount of $127,000. So this is going to help us do 6 different projects. So we're doing weatherization of the DPW building, the public safety building, and town hall. We're going to install unit heaters at the DPW, install some energy efficient lighting at town hall, and also do a demand controlled ventilation system at the Emerson School gym. So we've got a lot of good energy efficiency projects coming up. So looking forward to that. Then moving forward on the Making the Connections Transportation Pilot Program, the COA and I just discussed with Clinton Livery today our new contract to allow subsidized rides for seniors, so that the rides will be fully subsidized until this grant runs out. And then we can kind of assess what the transportation needs are of folks in town that don't have access to cars or have stopped driving. So we can learn a little bit more about those needs. And then we also, our DPW director received a MassWorks grant to complete a rotary at the Neshoba High School. So that news is official, and we're pretty excited that we're going to go forward with that. So, and then lastly, the master plan public forum that was held last weekend was a success. We had, some people say 50, some 70 people that came out and really put a lot of thought into some really great feedback on visioning for the town for the next 15 years. So I was really excited. It was really fun to get to meet a lot of new residents, people that are new to me, not necessarily new to the town. So I'm excited to keep moving forward with that process. And it was definitely a success.
Valerie, what's the output of that meeting? Like, is there like a documentation on what came out of it?
So, you know, we're still analyzing the results of that, but certainly the output, the documentation will be that final, you know, master plan. So, you know, this was just the first public forum. There will be others coming up. We're looking to do some more topic specific forums, so we can do these kind of mini charrette style forums while we continue to draft you know, what our strategies are in terms of implementation, and, you know, really begin kind of drafting different sections of the plan itself. So, you know, because this is just a few days ago and I took a few days off last week, I don't have anything, you know, written in terms of a summary, but I believe it was recorded. So that could be available through Bolton Access.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? General note, or are we ready to move on?
I think I'm ready. That's all I
Okay.
had.
Okay, good. Okay, so the next is a preliminary review of farmland open space planned residential development on South Bolton Road, map 2C, parcel 23. So the legal mumbo jumbo here. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 11, notice is hereby given that the Bolton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 27th, 2021 at 7:15 via Zoom video communications to hear and act on the application of Daniel Matha of Miami, Florida. The application is for a preliminary phase of a farmland and open space planned residential development, Phosphid, for property identified on Bolton's assessor's map 2C as parcel 23, located on South Bolton Road in Bolton's residential zoning district. The proposed development consists of a six lot subdivision. Okay. So is the applicant or their engineer here to walk us through the plans?
Yeah, I'm Jeff Motha. I'm representing my brother Daniel Motha, and then we also have Anthony Cleaves from Whitman and Bingham Associates on the engineer side.
Okay.
Anthony, if you kind of want to talk about these plans.
Sure, and if you'd like, I can share my screen and bring up a plan for reference. That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should be able to do so now. I think I just gave you the permission.
Okay. Can everyone see the plan?
Yep.
Yep, very good. Zoom out here. So the proposal is for a 6-lot residential subdivision off of South Bolton Road. We have South Bolton Road down at the bottom of the screen there, bottom of the plan. I believe, if I'm correct, that you may have seen some information on this property in the past, some concepts early on. But since that time, we have a 6-lot subdivision. In front of you here is the conventional layout. You have a cul-de-sac coming in off of South Bolton Road, 500-foot cul-de-sac. And then off of that, we have 6 lots. You have one on either side of the front portion. And then as you continue up to the cul-de-sac, 2 lots serviced by a common drive, and then 2 more lots cut up to the back to a common drive as well. The lot area of the parcels is about 31 acres. And so you see this, the end of it here kind of gets cut off. So it's it continues quite a distance off to the north part of the parcel. In blue, you see these are the wetlands all throughout the property. The purple line is a 100-foot buffer zone associated with that. So you can see what we've tried to do is really be sensitive to those areas and try and keep the majority of the proposal outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. You know, granted, there probably will be some grading in this and associated with septic systems and in the houses, but for the most part, we've tried to keep it up in the upland areas for that. We've done soil testing throughout the property to try and define some of the areas that are viable for construction. And you can, we'll zoom in, you can see that on the various lots. That's some of the symbols here, potential septic systems and the testing locations, proposed wells. So we've done on-site testing to determine that these areas are potential actual development areas throughout each of the lots. On this layout, so we have all conventional lots, and then just want to point out lot 5, we're showing as a backland lot. Ends up having about almost 17 acres, so more than the 4.5 acre requirement for backland lot. And then we have almost 100 feet of frontage, more than the 50 feet that's required there. All their other lots all have at least 200 feet of frontage and more than the 80,000 square feet of land area. The first couple lots are a little above 80,000 square feet. And then some of the lots off of the cul-de-sac, you can see get a little bit larger, 100 or more than 100,000 square feet. And so that's the conventional. Unless you have any questions on this, I can show the Fosbridge layout.
No, I think go ahead. I mean, it's the same layout, so go ahead.
And that you're exactly right, Mr. Chairman. It's essentially the layout of the development is the same. The only difference is really lot 5. So we would create an open space area, taking away almost 9 acres of land from lot 5 and designating that as an open space parcel. So that really becomes the main difference between the two. So what's one of the things we want to discuss with the board tonight? If you have a preference on if you prefer the conventional versus the Fosbridge of getting that open space parcel. But that's really kind of the next step for us to move forward on the design. You have any questions or comments?
I mean, I printed the 2 plans out last night and held them up to a light. It kind of felt like a little kid kind of trying to find the differences between them. And I would say that this is putting it very bluntly, I would say that this does not really, while it conforms to the rules for the Fosbridge, it doesn't really conform to the spirit of the Fosbridge, which is to reduce the overall impact of the development. That's why smaller lots are allowed and less frontage is allowed, is to give a more compact implementation of those lots. And I would not say that, the fact that the layout is exactly the same, except for carving off a chunk and saying, here's some open space, have at it. I don't,
I can't disagree.
If I want to be cynical about it, I can say, if that's the only difference, I'd prefer to keep the conventional plan and be able to tax that open space.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, to be honest with you, I can't disagree. I think
so I guess, from that perspective, I'm not thrilled about either plan here. I mean, it doesn't really, I think there's a lot of opportunity to reduce the impact of these 6 houses in that area, and you haven't taken advantage of that at all.
Well, that's where I disagree. I don't know that there's a lot of opportunity to reduce that with the amount of soil testing we've done around on the property. These are the real areas that are viable for house lots. We had actually looked at larger concepts, up to 10 lots. And although they work geometrically, like I said, we have 30 acres of land. And we could have easily drawn a plan to show that. But looking at the real viability, 6 lots is really, I think what would work for this parcel. Maybe we could try and fit more in and start pushing into the buffer zones and things like that. But that wasn't the approach we took on this.
Okay,
We tried to be sensitive to that.
First of all, I mean, the conventional plan has to conform to zoning requirements. So
It does.
if you're starting to push into buffer zones and wetland areas and such, then that would be rejected. So then that's not even a discussion. I'm surprised that these are the only 6 spots on that piece of the property that perk.
Well, we also have very steep topography. We have wetlands, and then we're encountering ledge.
And so there's a lot of ledge all through there.
So in this area, in the steep slopes in here, there was ledge.
Yeah.
This testing up in here, there was rock up in here. And I believe there was some more rock over in this area here.
Almost the entire left side was ledge. It kind of eliminated. I would have loved to put 2 or 3 more lots if I could, but the left side is just kind of eliminated that for perk tests.
Yeah, but between the slope and the wetlands, that rule out a good chunk of that anyway. So
yeah, correct.
Yeah, so another potential area is out in the upland area way out back, but
you can't get to it without crossing wetlands. So
exactly.
How would you do
so
that?
Right.
Yeah.
So we didn't entertain that. I mean, not that you couldn't cross wetlands, but that's not something that we really want to entertain. I don't think the town would want us to do that either. So that's why we really stayed true to the upland areas in here.
To me, I mean, it's the same just because they already compacted it with shared driveways and stuff. I know like what you're saying, Mark, is it's not much different, but that's because they already they don't have separate driveways for each lot, and it's already compacted. Whether you make it phosphate or not, I guess it's whether you want the taxes for that land or if you want to make it open space. I mean, you can decide that. We can decide that a bit, I guess, but I don't really have a problem with the plan. I don't see where else you would put the houses, and it seems like they conform. So. I mean, one question on the conventional, I think it's lot 4, maybe. Is that maybe Valerie can answer if that's a standard shape on the conventional on lot 4. That one, lot 4. Does that mean like the width and the way it meets the road is a little weird, but I guess as long as that meets.
It appears to meet it. It looks like it has at least 200 feet of frontage and it is over 80,000.
So I thought there was like a shaping or something, but
there is a lot shape factor. I can't do that calculation right now, but
yeah, that's fine. But I mean, I don't really see what, how else you would lay it out anyway. So that was my only point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not paid to engineer it. I'm just, it's just an observation that I think this is the first phosphate I've ever seen where they've been identical. And I'm just surprised and maybe a little dubious that's the best you could do.
Again, I'm not disagreeing that the Fosbridge is the same layout as the conventional. It's just the property lines. But again, as I believe the other, I'm not sure who mentioned it from the other plan board member, but we're doing the best that we can in either option to try and minimize impacts and and maybe Fosbridge isn't the right thing here, where all you're getting is you're losing some tax base. The other benefit with having that open space would be, that parcel would be separate from lot 5, and the owner of lot 5 wouldn't be able to further encroach into that open space area. That would be more restricted, would be protected more. That really becomes the only benefit. But to create more of a cluster in bringing the houses together, I don't think it's going to really be constructible, honestly.
Just a question from the audience here. Is there a place where you can raise your
Can you
hand?
identify yourself? Can you?
Is there a place where an audience member can raise their hand or ask a question at an appropriate time?
Yeah, we'll get to public comment in a couple minutes. Any other board member have any questions or comments?
I just think the town in general has looked for open space, so it's probably, if we were to choose, it's probably how they choose. I don't even know when land taxes versus house taxes, what kind of money we're talking about. So I guess that could be decided.
Yeah, no, I'm just, it was kind of a cynical comment that, the whole point of the phosphorus is to reduce the impact of the houses, and clearly that hasn't been done here. So I'm not sure that it's certainly not living up to the spirit of the bylaw, which is to reduce the impact, reduce the driveways, reduce the impervious material, and reduce the amount of cutting and clearing. And I don't see, which is why, you've got the reduced lot size, you've got the reduced frontages, you've got a lot of other, that's kind of the bargain that we made when we put the phosphorus in place, was, that we were getting, less impact from a development like this, in exchange for those reduced sizes and.
But Mark, to be fair, with a phosphorus, they would normally get more housing units.
No, they don't. No, they do the conventional. That's why they have to do the conventional plan, is to show that they could fit that many houses in.
Yeah, and then they fit in a small.
And it's usually seen as a benefit that they can, reduce the amount of road or driveway or other parts of infrastructure in order to accommodate that. So, but
just to be a devil's advocate, Mark,
yeah.
they could have put a road right down all the way to the end of this property, put a bridge over the wetlands, and put houses on the other side of that wetlands, and then condensed all that within, what they have it in.
Yeah, they could have proposed that. That would.
My only thought is they already condensed the conventional, so that's why you don't see much of a difference. I know what you're saying. Typically we do, but that's because it's more spread out. But they're already condensed.
Right. I think if I can, Mr. Neal, I agree.
I'm not sure when you're looking at it, 90, 100,000 square foot lots. I'm not sure I'd say that's very condensed, but in any event, I think I don't want to belabor it.
Well, so you're thinking they could shrink it more, go down to 1 or 2 acre lots and reduce it even more. That's your thought.
Yeah, that's what look at any other phosphorus that we've done, and the lots always end up, 1.25 acres.
Mm-hmm.
and the open space, just by virtue of having a more compact, layout of the houses and septics and wells and driveways and everything, the amount of impervious space and the amount of disruption is significantly reduced.
But again, if I can interject, please. Bringing everything closer to South Bolton Road gets us closer to this wetland system.
Yeah.
Right. So then you will then be further impacting the wetlands. So I think, sure, you maybe can bring the houses closer, reduce the driveway width, but now we're going to be getting closer to the wetlands. I don't think that was anything that anyone wanted to do. And maybe we could try and develop into a steep slope, but now you're creating more work trying to develop into a steep slope. So again, I think
it's an observation that I think this was,
so I think where we went astray was we should have shown 10 lots. And we should have shown how we could really aggressively design this and then shown you 6 lots.
If you could have aggressively shown 10 lots that were fully conforming, then sure, you could have done that. You showed 6, and you said it's a phosphor because I'm chopping off part of this lot and it's becoming open space. So I don't want to belabor it anymore. I mean, I think I've made my observation on this. So
I do have just a few notes, in case the applicant chooses to go forward with a conventional plan, just some things that may come up either way. This application was provided to other town boards and committees. And I just wanted to note some comments from the Conservation Commission, or at least the Conservation Department, because this has not gone before the commission, of course. So they noted that the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program should be contacted just to ensure that there are not any fully restricted or stop all type limitations on the site. They of course noted that a full ANRAD would need to be filed in the future. I know this is just a preliminary process, but in the future, just to confirm those wetland delineations, particularly because there are 4 certified vernal pools on the property. And then, the Board of Health wanted to have an opinion from Mass DEP to see whether or not the wells will be public or private. And then I just had a few other thoughts here on, if you were to go forward with the FOSPER, the one, in addition to this question of, being able to limit the impacts of infrastructure by condensing lots, as the conceptual FOSPER plan shows right now, there's not actually the adequate percentage of upland area within that open space. So there's essentially too much wetlands within the open space, because we do limit that to 25% maximum of that restricted area. Because really, the intent, as Mark was saying, like the intent of restricting in terms of open space is to provide opportunity for the ecosystem and for the habitat to thrive, while also considering benefits to the neighborhood, the existing neighborhoods in the area, as well as this new neighborhood, thinking about the opportunity of having footpaths or trails in the area. And so I see that you're pointing to the amount of restricted land and the land not within wetlands. So it says is this the conventional plan or the
Nope,
FOSPER?
this is the FOSPER.
So the one that I was looking at showed it showed 4.32 acres of wetland area. So 13.23 minus 8.91.
Right, 13.23.
You know, but again, so I think there are opportunities considering right next to where your mouse is, you're showing that there's open space at the adjacent subdivision. So thinking about, you know, what our goals are around connectivity, particularly in this quadrant of Bolton that's rather underserved by open space and by a trail network. And on roads that, you know, don't have sidewalks, I think it could be interesting to think about, again, if you choose to move forward, ways of connecting to that open space just north of there, and allowing, you know, existing residents the opportunity to walk from South Bolton Road onto this parcel, perhaps cutting through the neighborhood north of here onto Spectacle Hill. I think that would that might get a little bit more at the spirit of the bylaws as Mark was describing.
If I can comment on some of those comments.
Yeah.
Regarding the open space calculation, the way that we read the regulation, and as is stated right here, 33% of Fosbridge must be restricted. So in this case, we have
You're over that, yeah. You're
30
providing. Yeah.
30.86 times 33%. So you need to have the required land to be restricted is 10.18 acres. And then the regulations to go on to say that no more than 25% of the minimum amount of restricted land can be wetland resource area. So not 25% of the area of open space that you propose, it's 25% of the minimum area required. So that would be 25% of the 10.18 acres, which would be 2.5 acres. And so we have, as you mentioned, we have 4.3 acres. So we have almost twice the amount of upland area that we're required to have. Again, because the regulation is not based upon 25% of the open space you're proposing. It's 25% of the open space that's required, so that you don't get a negative for providing more open space than you need.
Right. Yeah.
So we do meet that criteria.
So this is the first phosphor that I've seen in this town. So if that is the way that we're interpreting it, I understand what you're saying.
Okay. And regarding some of the comments I think I caught on the Board of Health, each house would have its own individual well. We're not proposing a shared well, a community well. So it would not classify as a public water supply. It would just be a individual well. So this would not be a public water supply. And I think the conservation comments were pretty accurate on that at this stage.
Okay. Okay. Anything else from the board? Okay. Anything from the audience? Just identify yourself and your address, and we'll go from there.
Hi, this is Matt Barra. I'm on Century Mill. I don't know who on the board has had a chance to see the email I sent around. Mr. Sprague, it looks like your email address on the planning board website is either an old one or some inactive.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that happened, but yeah, I had a couple of those. Yeah, but yes, that email was attached to the public meeting. It was forwarded to the rest of the board.
Excellent. I was hoping before I get into any of that, if you could clarify for me. So when we're talking about the difference between conventional and open space, it sounds like your goal was to get as many lots in as possible. But when I read this, and I'm new to all this, so bear with me, and hopefully you can correct me if I'm wrong. It was my understanding from the bylaws that anything over 6 lots, anything 6 lots or over, had to go through special permit for open space. Is that accurate?
I think any subdivision that's being proposed has to. So the applicant needs to provide a conventional plan that shows the number, that's used to determine the number of lots, and those lots have to be fully conforming to the bylaws. So you could not, you could not, for example, in this plan, you could not put a house, in the wetland area and say that you've got, that's a valid house lot. So you need to show that you can, that you could actually, if the board said, go ahead and build the conventional plan, it has to be something that would be able to be permitted. So, but that sets the base number that sets the maximum number of lots that would be allowed. And then the goal of the phosphorus is then to say, in exchange for allowing smaller lots, some tighter offsets, less frontage for the lots, the town gets some open space preserved, as part of that development. With the goal being to, here, if we say, okay, this parcel can support 6 houses, the goal of the phosphorus is to say, overall, we want to minimize the impact of those 6 houses on the environment, which is why we reduce some of the sizes and offsets and such, which is a little bit of my consternation with this plan. But so what in their conventional plan showed 6 lots. That says that that they would be limited to 6 lots, regardless of how they laid it out, whatever else they did.
Okay, so just to clarify, when it's 6 lots or more and becomes a major residential development, then it is not obligated to go under open space.
It's up to it's planning board discretion.
Okay. Because there were quite a few things in the open space that I think I didn't see, at least when I reviewed, and again, I'm new to all this, it didn't appear as though the criteria of open space or the requirements set for open space had been met by the open space plan. I think there was just a bit of talk, and I think it gets a little confusing in the wording about what the maximum amount of wetlands is. And my interpretation, I think her name was Valerie. I think I agree with her in where it says 25%, no more than 25% of the minimum 33% can be wetlands. So my interpretation of that is about 2.5 maximum wetlands. So that was, I think that's a bit confusing in the wording.
Yeah, I need to go back and review the wording on that section of it to really understand it. But I mean, what the engineer quoted here is, no more than 25% of the minimum open space area, which would, the plain reading would be, that would be limited to about 2.5 acres here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I believe there was also a requirement for a minimum amount of frontage, and that it must be connected to a road and preferably connected to any adjacent open space, which is we're zoomed in on now.
I mean,
Because right now there's no access, right? I mean, the idea of the open space is to give community access to the area we have around here, forests and nature.
I mean that's the preference. Certainly, is to connect the open space whenever possible. Obviously some areas may not lay out that way. I mean, looking at this, I mean, I would question whether the open space could be extended along the Century Mill Estates part of the part of the parcel to kind of provide a corridor connecting the two wetland areas and connecting to the Century Mill open space. There's also some other Century Mill open space down behind the other lots there, but and I believe the proposal would be that that short road and cul-de-sac would become a town road, which would provide the frontage for the lots,
but not the open space, right?
I'm not sure what you're.
No, so there's frontage for the lots, but is there frontage for the open space? Like, is there a way to pass through from that road to the open space without going through somebody's yard?
Well, I mean, I think all of the yards look like they'd be, set way back from that cul-de-sac, but yeah, there is no trail easement or parking easement or anything shown or parking area or anything shown currently that would provide access to the open space areas.
Okay.
And that's something we have requested, in developments in the past.
And then one other question. So everywhere I've looked on the town assessor's website, that online tool, I think it's GIS something. It lists this lot as 29 and a half. I was hoping to get clarification as to how it jumped up to, was other land acquired? How did this become a larger lot?
So assessor's information isn't always the most accurate. And so it's a great planning tool for sure. GIS is a wonderful thing, but as you'll see, sometimes you'll see property lines drawn through people's houses. So it's not always the most accurate. So we've done some survey work out here to more accurately define the property boundaries, and that's the area that we have come up with at this point. Is almost a little under 31 acres. And then as part of the subdivision plans, what is required when we get the definitive plan is a full boundary survey stamped by a licensed land surveyor, which will have the most accuracy, much more than that of the typical assessor's GIS.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the information that the town has, or that that's published there, is more guidelines?
Yeah, they're typically not as accurate as surveyed plans because they're pieced together from deeds, plans of record, and they develop over 100 years, and they keep adding it. It's really it's a great planning tool for sure, and it helps them assess properties. But let's say as this plan were to continue to evolve, and hopefully we get to a definitive subdivision situation, that plan becomes public record that automatically gets sent to the assessing department, and then they will update their information based on the latest and updated information.
Interesting. One other question, that lot 5 in the back there, Anthony, if you could swing up there. And again, this might be something that changes as part of the open space, or maybe it's something that isn't as big a deal, I guess. But I thought my reading of the zoning bylaws is that backland lots were required to be at minimum 4.5 acres. Is that different for open space? Is that something that's being waived for this?
So
Um,
for open space, the lot area requirements go down. As the chairman mentioned, that's one of the benefits you get if you're, is that the minimum lot area goes down to 1 acre.
Yeah, and I didn't see backland lots called out as having a different requirement, but I did see a special section for backland lot minimum requirements. So I was, where there was no mention, I was hoping that there could be some clarification.
Yeah, so essentially, your frontage requirement and lot area requirement go down significantly. It goes, so they're actually less than a backland lot. And we put that on there for comparison, and I apologize, it probably makes the plan more confusing on the Forsbred scenario. But this is the comparison between the Forsbred zoning and the backland lot. So as you can see, the Forsbred zoning is less restrictive than that of the backland. So, so that's why in that case, we don't have the 4.5 acres for that lot 5 in the Forsbred scenario, because you'd only need a minimum of 1 acre and you only need 25 feet of frontage. So sorry for the confusion. It's a little confusing.
Oh, yeah. And again, if I knew how to read these, and if it wasn't, the first time looking at one, I probably would have gotten there a little faster. I guess I would have expected to see it called out specifically, right? Because it had its own subsection. So if backland lot is a, it's a, sorry, I'm not thinking of the term, but it is its own special condition. And to have it not called out in the open space, but called out in conventional, I guess that's strange. I would have expected a little bit of explanation. Is that, I'd also be interested in hearing what the planning board thinks. Am I off base? Is Anthony's explanation accurate with their interpretation of the zoning bylaws?
I mean, I believe the explanations are basically correct. I guess, as far as the lot, the overall parcel size, I guess the applicant's been getting a little bit of a couple of free acres of taxes for a while here. So, some of these things do get kind of convoluted, and there's a lot of history and how some of these things get spec'd out and traced over time. So it's not the first time where we've had, assessors information and reality not quite lining up, or, different surveys of a property coming up with some slightly different boundaries, just because, on some of these, on some of the deeds where it talks about, go to, this, 27-inch oak, is one property corner, and, this, the corner of the stone wall is another corner of the property, and things like that. It's
right.
Over time, that tree, died and was removed years ago. So what's your, how do you fix that corner now, sort of thing? Yeah. So there's, it's not completely science and how some of these things are put together. So, okay, any other questions from
the specificity of backland lot in the conventional plot, but not in the open space? Do you agree that the minimum is 1 acre for backland lots and that there is no requirement specific to them in the open space? Is that the intent of the bylaws? I wanted to hear your input because we heard from the engineer.
I don't have the phosphid regs in front of me on that. I will verify that is the case. I mean, I know there is minimums for conventional plans. I need to verify that for the phosphid. I mean, again, keeping in mind that the plan, that the intention is to kind of help to provide a more compact, more, less invasive development. It wouldn't surprise me if that minimum is relaxed or if we only have one type of lot spec'd out there. But I would need to verify the, and ultimately, the lot area, kind of one of the minimum requirements on the lot area is you have to be able to fit the house, the well, and the septic with all the appropriate offsets. So, even if it's backland lot, if the minimum is an acre and you've got, if you've got half an acre of tail on that lot, you still have to be able to fit everything into the lot area. So, if you look here, with the well, it's like probably 100-foot radius from the wellhead to the closest where the septic can be. So, plus the house and driveway and stuff, you quickly, very quickly end up with an acre there, minimum. But you don't want to keep a 4.5 acre minimum if your goal is to, help to compact the development. So, but yeah, I can go back and double check that, but
that would be great.
To think that the engineer is misleading us here.
And again, and for reference, if you're going to be looking into that, I'd point you to section 2.3.6.7, which is the dimensional requirements of FOSBRD. Basically, under a FOSBRD plan, you don't have back lots because you don't need, the FOSBRD is already built into creating reduced dimensional requirements. A backland lot is an opportunity to utilize more land for the benefit of having reduced frontage. The whole purpose of the FOSBRD, as you had mentioned, Mr. Chairman, is to, you get relaxed requirements to try and have more condensed development. So there's no need for a backland lot because the dimensional requirements of FOSBRD is minimum lot area of an acre, minimum lot frontage of 25 feet. So there's no need for a backland lot requirement because you're already at your minimums there anyway. So, but yeah, 2.3.6.7 is the dimensional requirements for FOSBRD.
Okay.
Actually, we got comments from Danielle. She said it was from Mallard Lane, but I assume it's actually for this, unless I'm wrong. But could we go through those?
When did
those are for Mallard Lane.
Oh, it is from Mallard Lane. Oh, okay.
I have some comments on this as well. I'm in a butter.
Okay. Can you identify yourself?
My name is Mark Kahn, and Elaine and I live on Century Mill Road, opposite the horse farm, basically opposite Led's property. So we've been in town since 85.
I'm sorry, what's your address?
182 Century Mill Road.
Thank you.
Thanks. And we've been in town since 1980. I was wrong on the date. And we actually, I looked at and walked this property many times over the years, and we considered actually at one time purchasing it. The couple of things to set the record straight. First off, putting a lot of houses on this property with a lot meaning more than 6 is a hopeless task. I looked at it ages ago for the wetlands and the ledge that's there, and it's just not doable. In fact, I'm surprised that 6 is okay. I thought maybe with the backland zoning changes the town made, you could get 5 on it, but I wasn't so sure about 6. And I also did some back of the envelope calculations on the sizes of the parcels involved here, and being off 2 acres out of 30, 1 part in 15 is a little surprising, given the fact that all the other lots in this area are pretty precise. So there's some uncertainty on this, and that plays into the amount of wetlands that need to be preserved. It is a good idea to preserve them, and putting the homes together in one area to allow this, as Matt just noted, having access to it and abutting to another area was a good thing to do. I'm concerned that we're possibly violating our own rules and regs here. We'll have to go back and look, as you say, to the actual dimensions of this based on survey as to what could be done and couldn't be done. But on the roundabout and going up to those long driveways, has this been looked at from a safety standpoint? Meaning, if you look at the width of those drives, it's a 200-foot roundabout, which is good. So fire trucks and things like that can get in. But then if they need to get up to one of these specific properties, can they get up there and turn around and get out again? Or how does that work? Because I know that that's been a concern for the town in many developments where these are pretty narrow bands. They have to be narrow in order to avoid falling down a cliff or avoiding a wetland. And when I looked at this property ages ago, I was concerned that those long drives up to lots 4 and 5, where you've got them, I didn't have lots laid out this way, but it would be a stretch to make something fit and satisfy the needs for the town for fire trucks. So has this been reviewed by town safety to see if this all hangs together here? Because it looks like narrow, long roadways.
I mean, this is just a preliminary discussion, so this hasn't been, technically they haven't filed with conservation. It hasn't gone to police or fire. Clearly not shown on here is any kind of grading, cutting and filling around the circle or the driveways. There's probably some pullouts required on the driveways that aren't shown. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's not on here yet.
Yeah, and it's steep.
And, and there's no drainage information on, because when you're adding that amount of impervious surface, you need to address the drainage issues and, where's that drainage going and how are you, how's it being treated and all that. So this is just kind of,
Yep.
I guess, to use a bad metaphor, this is kind of the opening salvo, and there's a long war ahead before we actually get permitted.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even call it a war. I mean, we all want to salvage the town for the point of view of open space, and we know that development will be coming. It needs to be done the right way. That's the purpose of your board, and that's understandable. But as I'm saying, what sort of made my hair go up a little was, well, we could have put 10 houses on this lot and we dropped it back to 6 because we're so much in favor of what the town is wanting to do. I had trouble thinking that you could get 6 on it way back when. So I'm not sure I will accept the fact that you could put a whole bunch of parcels on this with the wetlands and the rock and the steep drop-offs that are located in this area. But be that as it may, the issues I see are assessor's map versus this map and open space. The long roads up to the turnarounds for the individual properties. And then if the town accepts the road, that's one thing. But if it doesn't, do we have the situation that I know a number of folks that abutted Century Mill Estates were worried about, where the kids were going out to stand for the school bus on Spectacle Hill Road because the other roads were not approved town roads and they couldn't be there. And that was a mess. It didn't affect me personally, but I felt badly for the people that were dealing with that. So approving this, I think, would behold the town to accept the road before they approved it, or you're winding up potentially putting kids out on Spectacle Hill to get the school bus, or South Bolton. So there's a number of factors here that need to be thought through. I appreciate your having this hearing so we could just voice these comments, and maybe we can thread the needles here so that we don't wind up in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as far as this, I mean, assuming that the turnaround is built to town specs, and the town engineers have reviewed it and oversee the construction of it the way that they normally would. I mean, the road would come to at some point would come to town meeting and become a public road. Even if it's a public road, it's not necessarily, I mean, it's, as far as kids for a school bus, it's not necessarily a given that the school bus would come in here to pick up the kids. I don't know what their criteria is for where they place, where they will pick up kids or not. So, but I mean that's kind of that's the school district's problem to worry about to some degree. I mean certainly the drainage and the driveways and all of the infrastructure like that is something that kind of in our purview, and that's and that's where we have consult engineers that review it as we go along, to make sure that it's done right and all of that sort of thing.
Do we control lighting on these properties?
Yes. Well, let me be careful on this. The board will decide what lighting we want on the road. I mean, the houses themselves are, can do whatever they want to for lighting. We don't have regulations, governing the lighting on private houses.
I was just thinking of the wetlands and trying to maintain the pristine environment that we want for the town. So a lot of things die off when the lights are on all night.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I doubt that we would want any. I mean, I don't want to, I don't want to put the anything before the board's talked about it, but any lighting that the town might require would be is pretty specifically down lighting with cutoffs and that sort of thing to reduce as much as possible any impact. But on most of the subdivisions, we've been pretty this is a pretty stingy on the amount of lighting that we want put in, for that reason, if nothing else, and just in general, it's not really needed. If the police or fire department says they'd prefer a light to be at the intersection of of the road, then then we'll look at doing that. But beyond that, they've been pretty, they haven't requested very much lighting, so we're not gonna put it in if we don't need to. And as far as the houses go, I mean, yeah, we can educate them on, good lighting techniques, but, ultimately, if somebody wants to put in a floodlight lighting up their entire yard and everything, then, there's not a whole lot that, that we can do about that. It's private property. Okay. Okay, anything else from the board? Or any of the butters?
Are they looking for us to give direction on phosphid versus conventional? I mean, that's what this meeting's about, or do we need to hear more?
So essentially the public hearing for the preliminary process is more around confirmation of the number of lots. And then also, during the public hearing process, we'll want to take a look at the specific legal language around the open space restriction, which I have not received yet. And that language would need to be, reviewed by both this board, the select board, and the Conservation Commission.
And if I can comment on that. So yes, I understand that at some point you would need to review language pertinent to the open space. But from our standpoint, I guess we're looking for direction from the board, whether a phosphid is the right avenue for this or not. And if it's not, well, we're not going to prepare documents on an open space if we're not going to have open space. So I think that's prime question one is what if the board has a preference on conventional versus phosphid. If it's conventional, then we're not going to prepare an open space document for you to review.
Typically during these, the preliminaries here, typically the board does give the developer kind of a direction to go in. And usually it's a pretty easy case where the phosphid just makes total sense, and that's usually how we end up going. But if there's questions about the phosphid and then we want them to do the conventional, but that's I mean, if we need to hear more too and want to discuss it further, that's fine. But typically we give them direction early on. So like you said, they're not fully developing two plans.
How many houses did you say you could get on this in conventional?
It's the same.
It's the same 6.
There's no density bonus with a
Yeah,
phosphid.
yeah.
Mr. Barr, are you still there?
I am, yes.
Anthony, can you do me a favor and just zoom in on the upper, kind of like in the middle of the, keep going up.
Yeah, they're up. Yeah, they're up.
Sorry, down. All right. So where is your, do you have property in this area?
I do, yeah. I'm under the wetlands, that pond there. That's in the back end of my property. So a little bit further down.
All right, good. Can Anthony, would you mind just zooming in just a little bit more? So we have like Central Mill Ltd, National Lumber. Scroll to the right, please.
So I think up across the top there, that's all the
Yep, perfect.
that's all Century Mill up across the top there. So your property is this?
No, down on the, I'm down on that print down towards the bottom. There's that pond. Further
Okay,
over.
wow. All right. Seems like it's a little bit of heck of an area there. Is there a main concern of yours about all this?
I'm sorry, what?
Is there a main concern about all of this? So on what, 'Cause it does look, to me, honestly, it looks like they're like, it's just a lot in one area, and I'm just trying to get the feel of the citizens.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know if you've seen the message I sent out.
I don't think I did. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, so I originally, the bulk of the message was looking at town zoning bylaws, the rules and regulations for subdivisions, just to get a feel for how this was supposed to be laid out. But I think if I look at, things that are, I guess, a bit softer, it seems as though Century Mill Estates has been quite disruptive to the wildlife in this area. There's been, I mentioned in my email, at one point over the course of the spring, on one morning, I counted 11 deer in my yard at one time. Usually, I think we average about 6 a day. And that's a significant amount. I grew up on 9 acres of woods, and I never saw more than 2, right? So it seems as though the developments that have already happened in this area have been pretty disruptive. And in developing this area with the only thing left being wetlands, I wonder about the habitat for the deer that are still here. Where will they go? What's going to happen? So again, there's no real.
Anthony, I'm sorry. Can you just scroll up just a little bit? I'm concerned a little bit about the National Lumber land that they own. That's not developed, correct?
So just to put that in context, so that is part of phase 3 of Century Mill Estates.
Right.
Those were lots. Those were lots that Andy gave or traded or whatever it was he did with National Lumber. So those are individual house lots. That's not lumberland. That's not, I mean.
Right. But they're not developed, correct?
They're currently, no, that's part of phase 3, which has not been developed on Century Mill Estates yet. Yeah.
Okay. All right, just making sure. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, that's some of the, that's part of that, the whole undeveloped or uncompleted part of CME at the moment. So.
Right, and there's nothing saying that when they decide to develop it, that this is going to be changing, right?
Well, they would go through the Century Mills Estates. They wouldn't be coming from this area.
No, right, Mike. Yes, I understand. I'm just saying that that's an area that.
Yeah, that's part of the mythical road that'll be completed out to.
But what I'm saying, it's going to impact.
It may
this
impact
development at some point.
It will not impact this development beyond that. There would now be, a house on that lot. Those lots, as opposed to it being undeveloped at the moment. But in theory, any impact for on those lots has already been planned. Okay.
Quick question. Do you know if National Lumber still owns that land, or has that already been transferred or whatever they've done?
As far as I know, National Lumber owns that land.
I think there was some transfer of ownership, but I'm not sure exactly what's going on with it right now. It's tough to keep track of that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if somebody bought the lots from them. There's a lot of moving parts in that whole area, but you can see all of the mill pond addresses across the top there.
You don't think those moving parts would impact that whole area at some point?
Well, it's moving parts in that, I mean, the lots are set. It's moving parts in that, you know, we don't know who the owners of the lots are, or if they're gonna be developed, or when.
Yeah.
But this, you know, all those lots are part of the Century Mills subdivision.
Yeah, and those have already been, you know, that part of, you know, phases 1 and 3 of Century Mill Estates has been approved. So I'm not sure, you know, I mean, yes, at some point, you know, I mean, there will be, you know, an impact in that area in general when, you know, when they finish Mill Pond out, you know, out to Century Mill Road, and when they develop all of those lots. You know, that impact is kind of separate from the 6 lots that we're talking about here.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So
It's Gavin from 328 South Bolton Road. I'm just wondering if Jim's kind of leaning towards, you know, the impact to the community of how many homes are going to go in, all the abutting areas where homes could go in. It's just going to impact a lot of the population in the area. And I'm not sure if that's what Jim was kind of leaning to.
yeah. Okay. I think there's a long way to go on getting this kind of solidified, but I mean, I think as much as I'm underwhelmed by the phosphid plan, I think, yeah, I think that would be the direction I would tend to go. I mean, I think there needs to be a lot of discussion about you know, access into the open space areas, whether it's, you know, taking some of the frontage off of the circle and adding that as part of the open space. You know, with some parking, a couple parking spots or something there for people. I'm not sure, you know, that or easements across there, that sort of thing, you know. So I think there's, you know, we have some there'll be additional things, I think, you know, as we kind of button this up, but I think I would.
Mark, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question of the abutters? Are there any bridges or, you know, just planks or something? Is it crossable during certain parts of the year to get into that area?
It's very steep in a lot of areas. So that, you know, could there be some local place? Possibly, but it would take some careful layout.
I'm just saying, is there like any known trails that, you know, if they allowed for parking or something at the cul-de-sac, or I'm not sure, some offshoot? It doesn't sound like there's any known trails to get back there at any. I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
No, not really. I mean, it is possible. I've walked it, but I wouldn't call it a trail.
You know, that's another thing I was like questioning too, is yeah, it's an open space, but it's all marsh. I mean, like how?
Well, I think like Valerie was getting at, yeah, it seems like, you know, phosphorus the way to go to, you know, designate land open space so it can't be developed further. You know, if somebody wants to throw a ton of money and bridges over wetland, I don't know that it would even be possible.
Yeah, but who would?
But right. But what we
I
do
mean,
need to make.
I would like to see Concom get in there and see what exactly.
Well, what I was going to say is what we do need to verify is that the right amount of upland and non-wetland, as long as we're doing all the calculations correct, we need to make sure
usable
that's
space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's great that it's gonna get, deeded to the, town and whatever it is, but it's, is it usable? Is it feasible? That's the main concern. So, yeah, I'd like to see, like I said,
Yeah.
Concom's input on this.
I mean, that was their comments about national heritage and whether there's endangered species in the area and that sort of thing. And they'll certainly chime in on all of that. I guess my experience on a lot of the open spaces, I mean, if there's access into there, people, whether, people will go back in there for, whether it's birding or whatever, if it's a fairly undisturbed area back in there, they'll take advantage of it. So
I agree, Mark.
I mean, having an open space area that you can't get to doesn't benefit anybody. So
Right.
I think if there's going to be open space, I think we need to make sure there's access to it.
Right.
And similarly, looking at, is there a way along the Century Mill side, to tie it into the open space that's up there as well. Again, if nothing more than a wildlife corridor, where people can't put fences or whatever, in that area, and again, that gives the opportunity for a trail, for some trails up through there and that sort of thing. But that, that's kind of getting that's, I think, some of the things that we may be looking for the applicant to figure out how to add that in. But I think at the moment, I think just, we probably want a motion just to capture the sense of the board, whether we want to go with conventional or open or phosphid. This is just, keep in mind, this is just a preliminary plan. It locks it in as the 6 lots, and then we'll work, on they then have a lot of work to do with, legal language on open space, if that's the way we go. They've got to get all of the grading stuff worked out, all the drainage plans put together, all of the, and ultimately, other than the legal language around the open space, the work is the same either way on this plan. So, this doesn't really, shouldn't really slow them down one way or the other, but I guess, just for, I think just getting the some, direction from the board would probably be a good thing.
No, I think, I think it's good. You got to get the stakeholders opinion about it and see who's it impacting, as always, who's it surrounding and stuff like that. So good conversation, I think.
I would just say that I think that it's probably beneficial to keep the public hearing open until we're able to review, if the board does choose to do to say this is appropriate as a phosphid.
Well, Valerie, is there a separate public? I thought it was all just, I wasn't thinking we would close it. Is there a separate public hearing for when they submit the official plan?
Yes. Yeah. So,
okay.
I was thinking, if it is going to go forward as a phosphid, then we should keep it open so that we can review the legal language around the open space restriction. Just
I agree.
To give them more there, but I think you're going in the right direction to provide input, on the number of dwellings and conventional versus open space restriction.
And then I think then we can keep the hearing open to until we've reviewed the legal language. But I think ultimately once we have once there's a real plan, then it'll be a separate set of hearings and reviews. I think this is just giving the applicant, the guidance of what direction to go.
So, yeah, so should we have a vote for that, but just leave the hearing open? Is that valid, Valerie?
Yeah, we would want to continue to a date certain, but in the meantime, we might want to provide a little bit more, in case there's anything else you might want to see between now and the next planning board meeting.
Okay.
Can I interject for a question? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So I get a sense of where this is heading, and we're going to continue the meeting. I just want to make sure before you do make votes and vote to extend the hearing, if you can just let us know exactly what you would need us to provide, so we can do that. I don't want just all of us go home and then I go back and say, what am I supposed to do? So far I'm getting, if the board seems like it's heading towards an open space, so now you're going to be looking for more information on that, being the kind of the language that would go along with that. Would you be also looking for plan updates, if I'm hearing that correctly, kind of showing a little more how the open space would be integrated with the development? Is that accurate?
I think we've made some between the board and some of the abutters. I mean, there's been some questions and concerns and kind of suggestions put out there as far as and I think
No, I mean, no question. I think, and you said it really well, Mr. Chairman, that there's a lot more to be done here.
Yeah.
We're not at that stage. We are
Right.
this is a preliminary here. So I just don't want to, have this rescheduled and then we come back and you say, well, you didn't do what we asked you. I want to make sure that we continue to move the process forward, knowing full well, once we get the definitive, absolutely, we're going to have to look at the comments from the fire department, conservation, there's drainage, Mr. Chairman, you said absolutely, a lot of big ticket things to look at. But we just want to make sure we're just trying to get this first step out of the way before we head full steam ahead on everything else. So I just want to make sure.
I think we wanted to leave it open because even on our end, we wanted to clarify percentages and how they apply.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm clear.
But yeah, I think that's the main thing is how the open space is delineated and the percentages. I think that's the major concern.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything that you guys are going to expect from us later on. That's all I'm asking. So it's thank you very much.
I think the only thing once the board votes which direction we want to pursue, if we go with the phosphid, we'll want to, from our end, we want to review some of the numbers and make sure that they meet the requirement, the bylaws. From your end, I think it's really getting the legal language around the open space put together. I think is the next real deliverable from you guys, and that's what we'd be keeping the hearing open for. And then once we have that and have reviewed that, then I think we end up closing the preliminary hearing. And when you guys, either want more input or have a definitive plan ready to go, then we'd schedule another set of hearings.
So do we vote, to lean towards phosphid or not first, and then we have to vote to continue the hearing? Is that the order?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll make a motion then. Let me see. Look at the number. So I'll make a motion for the South Bolton Road subdivision located at map 2C parcel 23, that the planning board is leaning towards a Fosford development
For the 6 lots that are shown.
for the 6 lots that are shown. And we're looking for more specification on upland versus wetland, and just clarifying on our end and their end that those are correct.
Okay.
The second, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Get a roll
So-
call.
Yes, all in favor. Michael Gore,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Mark Sprague,
Aye.
and Jim Barr.
Aye.
All right.
Okay. So I guess the question to the applicant, their engineers, when would we expect to see the language around the open space so that we know when we can continue this to? And then Valerie, do we need town council to review that before we?
Yeah, we would want that. I think we're in a,
Is part of the preliminary, or or
I think I'll have to look through and see what was done at previous phosphorids. I know that it's really, the first look is planning board, select board, and conservation commission. I will say that because we're only meeting once in November and once in December, I think our December meeting is essentially too late for the deadline for action unless we have permission to extend the deadline from the applicant. So technically we would need to render a decision at this point by December 3rd.
Okay.
So I think our December meeting is not until the 8th, I believe.
when's our November meeting?
That's November 10.
Okay.
So that's just in 2 weeks. So I don't know if that gives the applicant enough time.
Well, and then getting it to town council and getting any feedback from them in that time.
Is that something we could possibly shoot for and then move, or is it set in stone?
I think the December 3rd date is set. Is that something that the applicant can waive to a later date?
Yes.
Can they request an extension or continuation
believe-
or whatever?
Is this required for the preliminary, or is that required to be finalized by the defendant?
It actually is required at this point.
Okay.
You're right that it's not necessarily finalized, but at least provided to give some idea of who might own the open space as well, like who would manage it, and to look more at what the benefit might be for the town.
Would it be possible to schedule us for the next November meeting and give us an opportunity to try and get some information to you, and also on your end, the calculations you're looking at, and then maybe it becomes a very short discussion and it says, geez, I'm sorry, we weren't able to get everything you needed, but you guys got some feedback on your end, and we can have a short discussion. And then now knowing that, December is past your requirements, at the next November meeting, then we could say, geez, looks like we're all not ready. We could request an extension of time at that point. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that should be okay. What else do we have on the November meeting? Do you have anything scheduled there yet?
I don't believe I have. Let me just double check my legal notices just to see.
Yeah.
No, I don't have any public hearings for the 10th, so any time there would be fine.
So can you want 7:15 on the 10th to continue this to?
I move that we continue the hearing to November 10th at 7:15.
Second.
All right, all in favor, Mark Sprague,
Aye.
Michael Gore,
Aye.
Eric Nayland,
Helps if you're not on mute.
sorry.
Yeah, I just learning this Zoom thing apparently.
And Jim Barr.
Or Pete, I guess Pete's actually on.
Is he?
Well, Pete's iPhone is on. I don't know if Pete's on as well, but.
All right.
Jim's still there.
Yeah, Jim's there and yeah. Pete's iPhone is there, but yeah, okay. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just had one question for you too, just in the spirit of kind of what you said at the beginning, and I don't know if this is possible. I'd have to check with the engineers. I probably shouldn't even saying it, but would reducing the length of the roadway be more towards the spirit of the Fosberg? Because that's just something that popped into my mind when you said that, and which ultimately kind of reduces some of the lots in some ways. Again, I don't know if that's possible, but if that's something that would help, that's something that I thought of.
So pulling the cul-de-sac closer to South Bolton Road.
Yeah, right now it's like 500 square feet, maybe making it a 300 square foot one. It would adjust the, I don't know if it's possible, but that's it. To be honest with you, it might help me too. So.
Okay, I mean, the only thing that's true, that's a little bit of a. You're reducing the road, but you're lengthening the driveways. So I'm not sure that, if I'm looking at purely at impervious material, I'm not sure that that's a win. It's kind of, it seems, just seems kind of like a wash there that, so I'm not sure that is a huge benefit, but, that being said, I mean, all we've approved the 6-lot phosphate here, or the concept of the 6-lot phosphate, what the actual engineering, if it makes sense for it to be 300 feet, if that works better with grading and layout and whatnot, then, that's up to you to design and present to us. So
Okay.
I don't, there's nothing magical about, you're not locked into, I mean, the only thing you're locked into is you've got 6 lots to play with.
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate it.
If you want to do it, bring frontage down on South Bolton and do a common driveway off of them. If that's what makes the most sense, that would that's kind of for you to, you as the engineer to figure out the best, the best way to lay it out and meet all of the other requirements there.
Okay. Awesome. I appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, let's see here. So I think we're done with that.
Well, thank you very much for your time, everyone. Really appreciate it and appreciate all the good feedback.
Okay.
So I'll stop my screen share now. And have a good night. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, guys.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Okay, so next is Houghton Farm Common Driveway as-built plan. So there was, Niche went out and finished up, and they had a couple of comments left on that. Valerie, do you know if DPW went out and took a look at it?
Yes, so I have not yet heard back from DPW. So
Okay.
they're going to be looking at both the siltation, I believe, around the swale area, and also to make sure that the apron from the common driveway is working out in terms of stormwater drainage onto Houghton Farm Lane itself. So they'll be taking a look as soon as possible, but they were not able to do so by the time of this meeting.
Okay.
And I don't see Greg Roy here, so I assume he's also not anticipating this discussion tonight.
Okay. Okay. So I guess we'll table that for the November meeting.
I had also, I had asked Nitch to comment on, any final thoughts on the release of the full bond for the subdivision.
Mhm.
Understanding that we did get road acceptance, but there may be a few final things to clean up.
Yeah.
So I haven't yet heard back from them on that, and I believe that that Greg was going to have someone go out and clean up one of the items on that list. So I don't think we're quite there yet, but I do want to make sure that's on the agenda next time, because we are still holding a considerable amount of money for a subdivision that's essentially very close to completion, if not completed. So
Yeah. I'd like to get that finished up, as soon as we can here. Okay. Moving right along here. Next is the discussion of Mallard Lane 40B application. Okay. So keeping in mind that this is a 40B, so all of our usual, a lot of our local requirements go out the window. I guess what if does anybody did we all look at it and have any comments on it yet, or? I know I looked at it. I found it a little bit. I think the fact that it's the only place where it actually says that it's supposed to be age restricted is buried in one paragraph about halfway down through the description, and it talks about it all being 2 bedrooms, and the floor plans that are provided are all 3 or 4 bedroom floor plans. I'm not quite sure what it is that we're really reviewing here, and getting some consistency and some getting the real plan to actually comment on might be appreciated before we actually start this whole process. I don't know. I don't know if the applicant or the engineer are here for this, or.
Yeah, my name is Jim Moore, and I'm the applicant and developer. It is going to be an age restricted, and also in the description that we're writing, it'll be actually the mono bedrooms will also be deed restricted. And that was part of the plan from the beginning. I've been, excuse me, I've been personally working on it for 4 years, why we started this concept a long time ago was the town of Bolton was trying to do a village overlay district. This is how the thought came into mind for me as a developer, saying that we wanted to give somebody, you know, a kind of an aged in place house and let them have a single story living. And that's why I started to do this concept. And, you know, we went through the mass housing, we got approval through mass housing to do an age restricted development, affordable age restricted development. And we've been working on it ever since. We've been through the design review board a couple of times. We've been to conservation. We still have to go back to conservation. We've promised that we would, even though it's not required, but we'd do a notice of intent through them. There are some wetland features that abut the property. One small feature is on the property. The larger feature is not. We've been trying to keep everything out of the buffer zones and that kind of thing. But again, the idea here is to do aged in place housing, single story living, and try to keep it as conventional as possible, meaning coming in to roughly a 600-foot cul-de-sac, having the homes front on the road, having the garages front on the road, have a sidewalk, and that's the concept.
Okay. So, okay.
So for past 40Bs, I know that one thing that planning board addressed was definitely stormwater. And so I know Danielle had comments for this one. They're confused last time, but she sent them, I think, right before the meeting. So either we can go, I don't know if he has the people in place to discuss them now, but we should definitely forward those to be addressed.
Yes, I know that we did submit the stormwater calcs. Ducharme and Dillis did do them for us. Now we've collaborating with Dillis and Roy now. And I know also that the ZBA has hired a peer reviewer that was paid by myself, the applicant, and they've addressed a lot of the stormwater questions that they have as the peer reviewers for the ZBA.
Okay, I mean, that's nice. We haven't seen any of that information, so, you know, we can't really comment on that and, you know, what was provided to the ZBA or what the peer reviewer came up, you know, provided back. And our other board member does this for a living, so, you know, we want her to have a chance to review it and you know, talk stormwater management stuff with the peer reviewer and whoever to you know, make sure that it's, you know, meeting what's really required there. So
yeah, Valerie, could we forward these questions to the ZBA or, you know, to the applicant and ZBA?
The questions from Danielle?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think, you know, any, just as we did for the design, we will be doing for the design review board, any comments or feedback that you all have, I'll try to compile into a letter for the ZBA so they can see that and work it into to their discussion as well. You know, I think, you know, even though it's true that with comprehensive permits, you're able to kind of, you know, bypass a lot of local zoning and regulation, it's still, I think, important for the ZBA to see how the planning board might review it as though it were a subdivision, and to think about, you know, the kinds of, you know, exactly as you're saying, Eric, like the kinds of items that this board is used to commenting on. So yes, that would, I think it's important to give that board a letter.
yeah. Okay, so looking at the plans that were provided, so there's shared septic and one well for the development.
That is correct.
Okay.
Actually, I'm sorry, it'll be an individual well per unit. I had a discussion with DEP, so we're amending those plans currently. Dillis Roy is working on that, and we'll be submitting to the ZBA a robust plan as they requested for the November 29th meeting.
Okay. Okay. And that will include all of the stormwater updates and everything.
That is correct. That is correct. I know Horsley and Witten commented on some of the stormwater that they wanted to see, and that letter dated October 14th from Horsley Witten was forwarded to Greg Roy.
Okay.
So the turnaround, that's fully paved. I'm looking at it now, like there appears to be like a grid or something underneath it. So
when we started this originally, like I said, it was about 4 years ago. We had a meeting out there with the fire chief. I wanted to originally put like a gazebo out there or something like that, and he said absolutely no structures in the turnaround, and he wanted it all paved. Somebody, I forget who mentioned it at the ZBA, brought it back to the fire department, and I know Valerie got some type of grid paperwork that we're going to try to implement some grass now in the turnaround, and that was something that the ZBA asked for already, and the fire department did forward to us, or to Valerie, I should say, a plastic grid, I guess, that we plant in between the grid, so then they could drive over it and it would support a fire truck.
So there's going to be a center island then?
I would say there'll be some type of grass in the middle. It hasn't been determined yet what that size would be. I guess it's going to be in collaboration with the fire department. Once we take their information that they're getting to us, I guess. I know Valerie has it. She shared it with me a little bit, kind of, through conversation, and she put it up on the website, the town's website. So we'll take a look at that and see how much grass we can add and how much pavement we can remove.
I assume this is going to be a public road at some point?
No, it's a detached condominium complex. They'll all be private.
It'll all be private, okay.
Yep.
So you'll be taking care of plowing on your own?
Yeah. Yes, the homeowners association will take care of all the maintenance of the road.
Okay.
Eric, I think the crosshatch area that you're talking about in the cul-de-sac is one of the infiltration areas for stormwater.
So that's what
it's
that
buried
like.
It's buried under the pavement.
So that's like the pervious pavement or whatever?
No. What we have two drainage infrastructures where we infiltrate all the surface stormwater back into the ground and not have it leave the site. So those are buried plastic Caltech chambers surrounded by stone. And what's at the head end of that is what we call a vortechnics unit that keeps the silt out from going in there also. And then it gives you a way to maintain the silt that would get in there from the catch basins on the road and stuff like that.
So that's something that needs to be maintained?
Yes, the vortechnics units will have to be cleaned out as they build up with silt over time.
And if not, I assume that it would run right down the road into the main road? Or it would be caught by the basin further?
Yeah, I would think long-term, I don't know how it would leave the vortechnics unit. I don't know long-term, like say the basins that are under the ground there, the stormwater system fills up, then I guess the path of least resistance would be up through the manholes, not the manholes, but the catch basins. They are connected hydraulically, yes.
Okay, well, Danielle's
I
the
mean,
expert in this area, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that homeowners association would have to maintain.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, obviously, you know, I'm sure the ZBA will require a, you know, O&M document, and you know that's part of that.
There was already, excuse me, there was already one submitted. It comes with
Okay.
the stormwater management plan, and Horsley and Witten, I think, also commented on it already also.
Okay. Okay. And there's 4 overflow parking spaces.
That's up for discussion right now. I actually had a conversation this week with the postmaster, Rusty. I was trying to be able to put mailboxes in the driveway. He said no. Then he gave me a couple examples to go look at that he would like to see. I'm going to collaborate with the postmaster to cut down those spaces because they've been a concern through the ZBA. They were just spaces so people could pick up their mail. Some of the comments have come up as, you know, if it's an active adult, then maybe they should walk to their mailbox. But I just don't want anybody to pull over to get mail and then something happens to them. So we talked about maybe changing those 4 spaces to just a turnout so people could stop and safely get their mail.
Okay. Seems the parking space would be more safer than the turnout, but okay.
I'm getting some flack on the 4 parking spaces. I thought, you know, that for me, I thought that would be safe. I'm thinking that what if somebody try to get their mail while the post person's pulling in there with whatever the vehicle they have, and you know, I was told even by the peer reviewer that they have a friend that lives in a larger subdivision that has a smaller spot than that. So I'm currently working on it. I thought my plan with Rusty was going to work, where I could put a mailbox at the end of each driveway. My goal was to keep it as conventional as possible, but he said there's no way he could do that. So he wants me to go, he gave me some addresses that he wants me to go look at those samples. So.
Okay. Okay. So snow removal would be, you know, or, you know, snow stockpiling would be where?
It hasn't been discussed yet.
Okay. I know it won't be along the wetland side of the road there.
Correct.
What's going to be done to protect the wetland from snow and the, you know, associated sand and salt and such
I think the plan is twofold, or maybe even threefold at this point. So we do have a curbed roadway going in there where all the stormwater and sand that gets used on the road does get caught in basins. So it's not like a country drainage situation where it'll just overflow the road, go down the shoulder and go into the wetlands. And again, we're going to pre-treat that. The next issue we have is we do have a retaining wall there, and then we're asked also to put a guardrail on that retaining wall. So I think that would be a good buffer from our traveled way to the wetland.
Okay. Okay, I'm not sure I see how the plow going by and pushing snow up over the curb that the guardrail would make any difference there, and then it's just going to go over the retaining wall down into the wetland. So I'm not quite sure how that would work, but I'm, you know.
But
okay.
I guess it depends how much snowfall you're talking about. If we have, I don't know, 4 feet of snow in a snowstorm, I don't know. There is a good distance between the actual edge of road in that way. You know, I know the snow plows can push the snow. I'm assuming that this traveled way, 20-foot wide private way would be plowed with a 1-ton dump. not like a 10-wheel dump with a wing plow on it or something like that. So I don't see the snow actually getting over the retaining wall and guardrail situation.
Okay. Okay, I need to look at that a little more. Okay. Okay. Mike, Eric, Jim. Looks like Pete's phone disappeared, so.
I have nothing
else on the
else.
board?
I have nothing else. Just those questions from Danielle.
Okay, yeah, I don't see those in my inbox, so I don't know what, if you can just forward those to me, that would be
Okay.
So is it a shared septic or sewage treatment?
It is it's a shared septic. How it happens is it collects all down to the beginning of the entry and then gets pumped up force main to the rear of the land.
Okay, so it gravity drops towards South Bolton Road and then is pumped up?
That's correct. That's typical how municipal sewer runs. You know, we collect them in a low spot and then pump them, you know, to the treatment plants. But in this case, it's just a groundwater small septic system. I will comment on the septic right now as we're working on the design, and the soil testing has been done already. Bill Brookings from the Neshoba Board of Health has witnessed the testing for the septic system. It is a former gravel pit, so we went down about 20 feet. It's all sand and gravel, no water, no modeling.
Just out of curiosity, do you have to maintain like a backup power source for the pump?
At this time, that was asked by the ZBA. If the homeowners association choose to do that, then they could do that with like a propane generator. There will be propane on site that's scheduled to go into use for the housing. There is anytime under Title V standards, if you have more than one dwelling on a particular system, there's a duplex. It's called a duplex, which means there's two pumps in the pump chamber. So there's a backup as long as you have power. The other issue is these being on wells, if the power goes out, you're not going to get water either. So,
yeah.
And there's also a 200% storage capacity built in. There's a flow equalization tank, the first tank in the series of tanks that you see on the plans. Then it goes into a septic tank and then into the pump chamber. But by Title V standards, you need a 200% storage capacity.
Jim, it sounds like you've done your homework. Thank you.
Yeah, we try. Like I said, it's been something that's been near and dear to me. I do live in Bolton. I live up on Oak Trail. I grew up caddying at the International. The former planner really had me when she asked me to help her with the overlay district. And I personally, I think it'll be something really nice for the town, and it'll get us to see if it's doable. You know, can we provide this type of housing, age restricted, and see if it works? I'm kind of excited by it.
Hey
Yeah,
Jim,
I mean, like
you
you
mentioned. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
You
Mike.
mentioned earlier that it was the village overlay district. Did you mean the cottage overlay district?
I
tried?
believe it went to, I know it went to town meeting 3 times and it was denied by the residents. I was told it was the village overlay district. It could have been the cottage. I think they might have used it interchangeably. When it first started, they didn't want any school impact. They mentioned that, and that was not good. So this is what, between this and there's a thing called Willow's Walk in Concord that we looked at many years ago. It was a kind of a downsized neighborhood that did really well, and I think it was in West Concord. But it was a way to bring a housing style they use the term diversify the housing stock, right? And then we talked with the town planner that Bolton actually voted to be an AARP community, and really they don't have any housing. So there was just a bunch of things that happened over 4 years, and that's where we got to where we are now.
Yeah, this is the, our intent of the cottage overlay. Like you said, it didn't pass, so it is good to see some diversity in housing. It definitely seems like a pretty tight area for all those units, but I guess that's not for us to decide here. But definitely just answer those questions from Danielle. And,
No, I mean, in fairness, Eric, I think,
yeah,
it is a very dense area. And I think, there are some things, snow stockpiling certainly needs to be addressed. Ensuring that the drainage structures are sufficient for the road and everything. Those, in general, and on other plans, we have commented that, that the density is, a little bit above and beyond what we feel the site can support. So I think, that is something we need to think about as, whether this, density is good to a point, but it is, it isn't necessarily always a good thing. So if we say there's, for example, there's nowhere to store stock to stockpile snow. We know there's going to be snow, so where is it going to end up going? And if the answer is, that there's really no, with this density, there's nowhere for it to go, the answer may be that, we need to look at it, or the applicant needs to look at removing the unit. If that's, if that's what's required to make that doable.
I know from working the land, and the best way to be, I would say, if I'll sit down with Greg Roy and we'll cover that issue, Mark. But if I would say that it would, we have some land, some open space that was previously disrupted from the storage by Bonazzoli. In behind, you would come in behind Unit 8. There's between Unit 8, Unit 9, Unit 7. There's some backland there that if we had to stockpile snow, we could build some kind of road. Even if it be gravel, we could work out something there, and that would put it furthest from the wetlands.
Yeah, right on top of the septic system. Or
the septic is scheduled to go, and that's what you'll see. We're going to update the plan. It'll go parallel with Unit 7. It's more over by Unit 7. It's not behind Unit 8 now.
Okay. And quite honestly, I'm finding it very difficult to know what to review here, since every other phrase seems to be, well, that's not quite what we're doing anymore. So I think that this is a little bit premature in some ways. I think if we're not actually reviewing something close to the actual plan.
There was a few things that have changed, Mark. But I will submit an updated plan as soon as it's ready to the planning board.
Okay. Okay.
I know some things that didn't change. A while ago, I submitted in my plan to the zoning board is what was a state requirement. It's called the tubular zoning analysis. And it actually spells out, the zoning requirements and what we're proposing. I don't know if you have that at all at your disposal, Mark.
I don't know if that was in our packet. I don't see it here, but that's.
I think what I wanted to do tonight is just to explain to the zoning board that has not changed since the beginning. you know, what variances we would be seeking under the regular standard zoning requirements. And like I said, it was something we had to submit for our comprehensive permit with the state, Mass Housing. You know, there's 10 total that are on this sheet called it was section 3.4 tubular zoning analysis. This was done when Ducharme and Dillis were together. It talks about the existing zoning requirements, minimum lot area under 250 13B. It says 80,000 square foot. Obviously, we're going to do less than 80,000 square feet. Minimum lot frontage is 200. We'll have less than 200. The minimum front setback is 50. We're proposing 50. The minimum side setback is 20. We're proposing 10. The minimum rear setback is 20, and we're keeping 20. We're not going to vary that. And that, you know, when we talk about density, I know that people think it's dense and compared to what we're used to, but we did lose some units in that by keeping everything 20 feet off the property line. We thought it was important. I personally thought it was important to all the abutters, is that we're not going to push the structures up to the property line. Then the minimum yards, interior sideline setback, we have it proposed at 3 feet. Minimum lot width 100 feet, 150 from the street line. Not Ducharme has here that would not apply to lots 2 and 3. Units per lot 1, we're doing greater than 1. Driveway and parking, nothing in there. Special permit for a shared driveway to access the 3 lots. And then there's the 250-13G lot shape factor greater than 0.5 would be less than 0.5. But that is what we submitted more than a couple of years ago to the planning board. And that has not changed. So it isn't like, you know, when we sat down to do this thing, we did lose some density. We did lose some houses. What we're trying to accomplish is to stay out of the buffer zone as much as possible, even when we didn't even know what it was. I mean, we do know now that it was the larger water features, a certified vernal pool, that paperwork's coming. But we maintaining the best offset we can meet with the 11 units.
Okay.
It's Gavin Robinson at 328 South Bolton Road. Can the public make comment?
Is there anything else from the board first? Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll take a few comments from the abutters.
I'll let Barry go first. He had his hand up.
Thanks, Kevin. Mr. Chairman, I think you hit the nail on the head that we've been asking for quite some time updated drawings from the applicant. Valerie, can you clarify whether we have received updated site drawings, namely site grading, since the application was submitted?
No, as the applicant stated, he's currently working with engineers at Dillis and Roy to update those plans so that the ZBA can have a review of those plans prior to their next meeting, which is, I believe, November 29th.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring up the fact that you had mentioned that the planning board has jurisdiction over site drainage. Under the current plans, the site drainage and the topography creates an 18-foot high block retaining wall behind buildings 4, 5, and 6. We had a site walk with the ZBA several weeks ago, and the applicant said that he was raising the grade by 7 feet. That is going to have a substantial impact to the site drainage. And yet you're reviewing drawings that show this 7 feet of fill. you don't know how the drainage is going to go with that amount of fill in this development. And we don't have any documents, whether the town engineer is reviewing it or the planning board is reviewing it. I don't know how you can respond to inadequate information. And by the way, I'm Barry Bushinsky. My wife and I are a direct abutter. I live at 348 South Bolton Road, and my backyard abuts the mailbox area.
Okay. Good. So I agree it's a little difficult to review and comment on something that is not, that seems to be a kind of a preliminary or incomplete set of drawings, and where, and if comments are being made in the field that, yeah, that's what's on the plan, but that's not what that's not what we're doing currently. It's kind of hard to review what those are. I mean, this, 40Bs are so in a 40B, the ZBA is the granting authority, basically. They will look to the other boards for input, and for normal subdivisions, drainage is one of the big things that the planning board looks at. So we will be providing feedback to them on the drainage, and feedback or questions or whatever. When we get, it sounds like end of November-ish timeframe, we'll be getting another set of plans, and at that point we'll review those again and update our comments on or questions on the drainage. The ZBA also has has hired a consulting engineer to review all the plans. They'll be looking at the drainage separately. And our other member who does this for a living, we'll provide her feedback, questions and feedback on the plans, and those will get incorporated in with the other comments from the ZBA.
Okay, so you approve.
So it's a little bit, so even if the planning board identified a fatal flaw in the drainage design, if the ZBA says, yeah, that's just overblown, we're not going to worry about it, there's nothing we can do about it. So we're to some degree consulting engineers on any 40B. We're not the granting authority here. So unfortunately, that kind of has to temper a lot of some of the discussion here.
Mr. Chairman,
I also think, though, I was just going to say, you speak in a minute, Barry. We are the experts. Well, not us, but Danielle, Valerie. So I would hope that the ZBA would take our concerns, and if there is a fatal flaw, that they would address it, and if not, the town.
Right. I think my point is that we're not the granting authority here. So
yeah, that's true.
The ZBA is the ones who will take the feedback from us, from their consulting engineer, input from the applicant's engineer, and decide, and work out, the details, what's required or not. In general, they will, to the extent that they're allowed to by law, they will take other boards' input, into the process. But part of the 40B is that they're held to state laws, state regulations. So even if Bolton has tighter regulations in a 40B, those don't hold. It's up to the ZBA to determine which of the local rules and regulations and bylaws and such can be waived or not.
Mr. Chairman, at the risk of sounding pretentious, and I really don't mean it this way, I am a registered architect, been practicing for 41 years. I've done 26 40B developments.
Okay.
So this is right up my alley.
Okay.
And this is totally unheard of proving something when the plans aren't accurate. I'm sorry.
No, I not knowing your background, I mean, there's a lot of people that don't understand the 40B process. So, so a lot of times just resetting that expectation, it helps the conversation. So I wasn't intending to talk down to you at all or anything like that. So hopefully it didn't come across that way. I agree. I mean, I think we have a set of plans. I think that, we have some concerns. I think we're not approving anything, and I would expect that when when we get revised plans at the planning board, we'll have another review and we'll have more discussion on what's presented in those plans. I would hope that, some of the things that aren't shown here, but, if each unit has its own well, I'd like to see where the septics are for the various abutters, to make sure that we're not, they're not right on top of each other. I will take the comment from the applicant that they generously, pulled the units, 20 feet back, from the, from the back lot, the setback there. They have at least 20 feet of retaining wall and slope there that forces their hand in that case. But there's things like that we just we'll need to review when we get the revised plan, and I think part of that will also include a lot more details around the stormwater management and how they did their calcs, and whether those conform with what Bolton is doing with those now. So we're not really I think we can give some preliminary comments with the big caveat that this is based on these old plans that don't reflect reality anymore.
This is Gavin Robinson, 328 South Bolton Road.
Yep.
So I would like to make a comment that someone from the planning board actually attend the ZBA to actually experience what the abutters actually have experienced in the ZBA meetings with missing content and such. It is a public meeting, so I think the planning board members can attend.
Yeah.
And listen. I'd highly recommend that. And the comment about it being generous that we cut back on the number of units, we're talking about 11 units within just shy of 5 acres. And you guys just looked at a plan of 6 units in 30 some odd acres. So I don't know how generous that is, but
I mean, it's kind of an apples to oranges comparison. So
understood. But the number of units actually within the 100-foot buffer, I know it's 40B, so it's an exception, but the number of units within the 100-foot buffer of the wetland is considerable. It's not just one, it's a couple. So
yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the plan. It looks like there's three where the part of the actual structure is within the 100-foot, and one that's right touching the 100-foot, which means that any grading or anything would be within that. So I mean, there's probably four-ish that would fall within the 100-foot buffer.
And to your point of the snow removal, I mean, it's most likely going to be a landscaping company or the like doing the snow removal, I would think. So can we actually hold them accountable to actually pushing the snow away from the wetlands? We can't say that, right? So it's kind of up in the air. So it's pretty concerning being an abutter to that wetland and actually being a partial owner of that wetland.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, would expect if it's a landscaping company that they're going to go, you know, the shortest possible place to dump the snow, and they're not going to care if they, you know, in general. So, okay. I mean, that's something I think needs some further review and discussion about how snow will be. And actually, I don't care about snow. It's more the sand and salt that's, you know, that you know, when the plow comes through there to clear slush off the road and, you know, it goes flying over the guardrail, how far is, you know, or is that going to end up in, you know, in the wetland? You
And
know,
I can tell you,
is
the type of wildlife, I know this is not conservation, but the type of wildlife that's in there, you got your spotted salamanders. You know, that's always a big night in Bolton that, you know,
Yeah.
Bolton raves about, and there's tons of them in there. And this is going to be a huge impact environmentally in that area.
Yeah. Okay. So one question, are you, what street lighting, unit lighting are you planning for in the development?
There's no street lights. Through the conversations we've had previously with ZBA and design review, is the town of Bolton is really trying to do away with any kind of lighting features like at the entrance. You know, there will be sconces on the houses themselves, but that's it. No street lighting is proposed for the subdivision.
Okay.
And again, it's Gavin at 328 South Bolton Road. I know there is going to be possible changes to the parking area, but I know abutters have concerns about parking and lighting with cars in the middle of the evening, you know, going to pick up mail and such. So I would hope that that definitely gets taken into consideration. And it sounds like it is with the mailboxes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Okay. So I guess we'll send what comments we have to the ZBA. I think with the caveat that we need to re-review it when we actually get corrected plans. Okay. Okay, so I think for tonight we're done with Mallard Lane.
Okay, thank you for your time. I appreciate everybody's time. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving along, deliberation and vote on Meadow Road Backland Lot Special Permit. Okay, so this is the this is for map 40 parcel 104. This was lot 4 and 5.
5, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's lot 5.
Lot 5 for the backland. Okay, yeah.
I'm not sure if you all had the chance to review. It's pretty typical special permit. I think the only special, condition I put in here was that the backland lot shall be served by a shared driveway with lot 6 as shown on the plan.
Okay.
Other than that, it was pretty boilerplate.
Okay.
So I don't know if there are items that members would like me to add in there, or if that does represent the discussion that we had that night.
Yeah, I'd look through. I thought it looked about right. Anybody else? Okay, get a motion to approve it.
Okay, I guess I'll do it. Let's see. So I make a motion that we approve the Beckland zoning special permit for Meadow Road. Bolton
Lot
assessors,
5.
look at, yeah, map 4D parcel 104.
I wasn't at that meeting, so I don't know that I can vote on it, so.
No.
I don't think you can without, yeah, because I didn't do the Mullen paperwork with you before, so.
Yeah, I did watch it. I meant to check in with you, but.
Yeah, sorry. I think it's on Jim now.
Yep, I second.
So can the three of us approve it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a majority needed.
Okay.
So all in favor, Jim Barr,
Aye.
Eric Neeland,
Aye.
and Mark Sprague.
Aye.
Yeah, the only difficult thing is that that means that I will need all three of your signatures on the document. But I do have signatures on the plan itself, which is good. So so what I'll do is try to get this in the Dropbox this weekend.
Okay.
I'll send you an email when it's ready.
Okay. And then next up is, since we're still early here, discussion of business district zoning and extending the mixed use overlay in the current zoning and all that sort of thing. Okay.
Yeah, Mark, I don't know how you want to do this.
I don't know. This was added late today, so I hadn't had a chance to go over it. Okay.
Valerie, your document was excellent.
Thank you.
For putting that together.
Yeah, so essentially, what I'm hoping for here is to, as I said in the memo, is to view it as, you know, anytime someone comes forward with a zoning change request, to kind of view it as a negotiation, to think, you know, what more could we get? You know, besides the question of is this an appropriate development, which, you know, it could be a great option for the town. I just want to make sure that we are again really getting the most out of any potential zoning change. So I think I learned a few things since I've written this memo. So what the memo is really going over is my own experience with Habitat and a rezoning process in Stowe, and learning more about what you know, how you can kind of tie your goals and objectives to specific documents that the town has, in order to, you know, clearly tie or clearly state, you know, a documented need for certain things. And that could be trail connectivity, sidewalks, bike lanes, more affordable housing, more commercial space, more civic space, you know, what. So because I'm new to the town, I don't really know exactly what these goals are. And I didn't have the opportunity, you know, in the last 2 weeks to read through these plans and kind of pull out what might be specifically related to this section of town, but also, you know, what are stated goals of our business and limited business districts. So one thing I learned since I wrote this, I kind of walked around town hall a bit today and asked, you know, staff, what their knowledge is of the mixed use village overlay district. And so the one, I feel kind of silly, but the one plan that I missed in this list is the planning board's subcommittee that reviewed that created the mixed use village overlay district. So, I think it's important to do, at least for me, to do a little bit of history, a little bit of learning about, what the public outreach process was like at that time, why these parcels might not have been included in the district at that time, what information we received from MAPC, who is our regional planning agency that helped with a bit of the technical analysis around the siting of the overlay district. And, thinking about, this was proposed initially, I believe in 2010, which is when it failed at that point, or maybe it was 2012, and it did not pass at that point. It came back to town meeting in 2014, passed, and then there were some modifications made in 2016. So I'm thinking more about, what have we learned in the last 5 years that would compel the board to alter the zoning district? And I think, there are good answers there. I think, one of them might be that, no one has ever acted on the bylaw. So we've never, it's kind of a positive and a negative, right? Like we haven't been able to see how well the bylaw is performing, but also maybe because we haven't seen it, how well it's performing, maybe that says something too. And maybe that says that we should explore other areas. But also thinking more about, what the vacancy rate is already in our business district, and just wanting, so I guess there's the kind of a two-pronged approach here is looking at, like, analyzing the overlay district itself, and then on the sidelines kind of reviewing this specific proposal. So kind of looking at this as two separate things. So trying to separate this specific request and this specific site plan from the broader request, particularly because, in order to not be accused of spot zoning, they have included other areas in their proposal. So we might want to do a bit of a build out analysis and really consider, what that whole area might look like and what the impact is. And as a newcomer to Bolton and as a non-resident, it's kind of hard to understand a little bit more about what the town might want. So I'm thinking more about what a public outreach approach might be here, especially since we now know that we have this MassWorks grant. That grant itself and the construction of a rotary there could lead us to asking more for in terms of sidewalks and connectivity and civic space. So a lot of thoughts here. But essentially, for me personally, I feel like I need more time to be able to analyze this request. So if the board is meeting with Habitat again in 2 weeks, I'm not sure how much can be accomplished in 2 weeks to really understand what direction to give to Habitat.
We can't really do anything until town meeting, so it's kind of the meeting. I don't know what we can get out of another meeting with them in 2 weeks. Like you said, whether it was just to ask for more stuff. I know they were talking about being able to be a part of the Rotary development. What you were saying, what can they add? But like you said, taking a step back even more with the Bolton Office Park 40B, 200 plus units, and now we have this Mallard Lane one, and I would like to see the village overlay used, but also I would like to see that corner be totally business as well. I understand they want residential is what's hot now, so that's why they want to go that way. But I do agree that we should see if we want residential in that area, that we carved out business, or if we want it to be all business. Whether a multi-pad business, little, I don't know, like a marketplace type, small shops or something. I mean, I don't know what's viable now in this day and age with, retail or not, but it's probably not much. It'd have to be like a specific type of use, but I guess in more general terms, it would be good to understand if we want residential there or not.
Well, should it be more, mixed use?
Well, it is when I say residential, but I mean,
Right,
their plan is to have residential and a business. And if that's the only way that we can get some businesses to have the mixed use, then
Because it's just business right now, right?
it's
Well,
just
that's-
business right now.
That's what I'm saying is like, what was it, 3 years ago when we tried to go ahead and, define lines of where, the zoning use was. It made sense to me to go, okay, we looked at all these spaces and we're like, all right, we should expand this, retract this one. And I almost want to say it's like the infrastructure or the zoning, the zoning lines.
But yeah, so yeah, that was trying to, on any given
Clarify.
on any given parcel, have it zoned,
Right, and what killed
yeah,
it, what killed us was the
Bolton Financial.
yes,
Capital.
thank you,
Yeah, Bolton Capital, yeah.
yeah.
What is that? Can you explain that to me a little bit? Sorry. if you don't.
So that's the big barn and house right as you're coming into, so
Beautiful old house.
there are a whole bunch of lots along 117 that are split zoning.
Yeah,
And so he said, let's just, let's clean this up.
Right.
yeah,
Our lives easier, make everybody's life, and, so all of them went through, nobody had any real objections to any of them in any of the hearings. When we got to town meeting, was it town meeting or was it in the hearings?
It was an email
Town
before,
meeting.
wasn't it?
No, it was
Could have
town
been,
meeting, it got killed.
Yeah, but it was the Bolton Capital property, where they've just spent a huge amount of money renovating the barn and have this whole, the back part of that is residential, the front part is commercial.
okay.
And so we were gonna, just, again, for consistency to make things like easier for everybody, and if they wanted to add, another building out back or something for commercial, whatever they want, but it was, it got twisted, just on that property, it got twisted into, well, they're gonna tear down the barn and the house and put up a Walmart.
Right.
Effectively was the discussion. So that kind of sank the whole effort.
But that's what distracts commercial developers are the lines that we have.
Yeah.
And I think we, that initiative was right. It should have been cleaned up.
Yeah.
That whole area where Classic Pizza, going back. It's that maybe we don't do the whole, I mean, we took a big chunk of that whole 117 area. And maybe we shouldn't have done that. We should have just, how do you eat an elephant a little at a time, I guess. But that's what, a lot of places, I mean, look at Berlin and Hudson, what they're doing up at, what they've done up on
The Highland Commons.
Highland Commons and everything else like that.
Mhm.
I'm not talking about something to that extent, but you know, how can we make it better for a developer or in a company to come in and be, you know, how do we make it good for them to make it easier for them? Because right now, looking at the lines, they don't, it does not make any sense to me.
Right. I mean, that was the intent of what we were trying to do, is just clean up the lines because the zones don't match up to property lines. So
Right.
anybody new, you know, any new developer or anything coming in, it's just very unclear what they can do. For instance, Valerie, I think you've been on emails. I've seen David Kane emailed a couple of times. I mean, the business zone line and residential line goes right through that current gas station, and he's looking to redevelop, but he's having trouble doing it because the line goes right down the middle, you know. So our whole intent was just if the lot was intended to be business, we set the lines to business. If it was intended to be residential, like for instance at Bolton Woods Way, a bunch of the land in Bolton Woods Way actually has industrial zone on it, even though it's residential. So I mean, we were kind of cleaning up both ways.
We had a citizen asked a question about that, and they were fine.
There might be something to that. I mean, I feel like there certainly are a number of situations where housing is being sited on business zoned parcels. We have Craftsman Village. We've got the 40B at 580 Main going into the Bolton Office Park. And then also, you know, this idea of Still River Commons near the Tadmore subdivision. And I think, I mean, it seems logical to kind of combine housing density with your economic areas, right? So with your business parcels, that makes sense. And I think it might also, I think there's something to the economic feasibility of creating public water supplies if you're able to pair housing with a commercial space, because I think a lot of the reason that the business district parcels and the limited business district zone parcels are not getting, you know, developed or aren't being, you know, maybe fully used could be because limitations on their individual well supply. And so I think it makes sense that the developer would try to make it feasible by adding in a residential use as well. So, I mean, this is the reason that there aren't many restaurants in Bolton, right? Is because there's just not there's no public water supply. There's not the capacity to put in like a zone 1 on one of these smaller lots. So it's true that you know, the mixed use could be the ticket to getting more parcels developed.
And then unfortunately, you're gonna have to think about traffic. 117 is a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare.
Yep.
Well, but I mean, all this aside, like we're talking about how to lure more people, and now we've got Habitat that's willing to build some business.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was my point, you know, the other day. I mean, we have a developer that's willing to work with us, and I mean, I'd say that they've been pretty open in trying to see what we want and what will work, you know. So I don't think we should just throw that away as well.
And it sounds like you had not terrible experiences with the same developer over in Stowe.
No, see, that's the thing. Like they've been really good. So I do have a lot of trust in them. I want to make sure that we are giving ourselves enough time to have these conversations about what our goals are. You know, rather than well, to be able to build a better project than, than a developer might be able to build.
Are you getting pressure from him to have us take this up at the next meeting or something? Or because like Eric said, I mean, this is, we can't do anything until town meeting, which means we discuss this with the public in February. So I mean, we've got plenty of time.
Yeah, I've definitely been feeling, so, I mean, at the last meeting, we offered a spot on the November 10th agenda for them to come back. And I feel like members did discuss a presentation at town meeting with, I'm just saying, I think that there's more research to be done prior to, committing to a specific concept.
Well, I think what I said on that front was, if we were going to go this route, it would, in any past bylaw we've done, the more that the town can see and visualize what it would look like, the better it would go. So if this was the way we wanted to go, for whatever reason, including into village overlay, to have the developer there and be like, hey, this is what we're thinking we're going to develop, it would be much more likely to pass than if it's just this kind of nebulous thing like this. Oh, well, maybe we'll have this. Like if there's no concrete idea behind it. I think like 7 or 8 years ago when we were talking about the Kane property, we were rezoning or whatever to get Market Basket and a CVS, but there really wasn't any visualization to it, and it was kind of open-ended. So whenever there's any questions to be had, those questions just like exponentially snowball into, like Mark said, all of a sudden we have a super center Walmart, So if the town can see what the developer is planning, I was just saying, if we do want to go forward with that, it would help.
Yeah, I think what we had what they were planning on coming back with at our November meeting was they were going to go and talk to the various kind of other businesses in that and people in that area, like Frank Chioda and people, and see if they would be interested in, expand, and supporting adding mixed use overlay into that area.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, I mean, I think if we're going to pursue it, I mean, I think I think we need to do a fair amount of outreach on this, even before we get to putting an article in place. I think we need to have some, some discussions in, probably in January about with people to kind of start sounding people out and educating people and getting, kind of getting some of the people and some of the more vocal people, kind of, in line on this. I think, I think when we were trying to clean up the zoning lines, I don't think we may not have done enough of that. So we were, so there were some people who were kind of left out early on, and they let us know about it at town meeting in no uncertain terms. I'm not sure it would have changed anything, but but they would have, they would have had more time to internalize it and discuss it and understand it before before we got to town meeting.
I think for this particular development, though, like the biggest thing that people would have complained about in the past is the intersection, and if that's getting redone,
yeah.
And so, does the grant cover the full cost of it? Do you know?
Yes, so we're using Chapter 90 funds to cover the engineering, and then the grant itself is $1 million to construct.
And they think that'll cover it about?
Yeah. They think it will.
Seems like it should.
Who knows?
Why not?
2 weeks.
But I mean, that'll be huge. Like that, I think that would have been people's biggest complaint, is because everyone on Saturdays, if they have to, bring their, pick their kids up from the soccer fields or come back from the transfer station, that intersection is the worst.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and no one would want to say, yeah, I want to put more stuff there that backs me up and gets me killed trying to cross 117. So, I mean, I think that'll take a lot of pressure off.
Yeah, and I think, I think we also need to prepare. I mean, we've seen this on several projects now where people in town want to know exactly what's going to go in there.
Yeah, but
the reality is, even if Habitat has somebody lined up now, in 2 years or 3 years, whenever it's actually built, that tenant may change.
yeah,
And even if that tenant is in there for a couple of years, they may go out of business, they may move elsewhere, so there's not, so to some degree, people,
But the footprint will restrict what could realistically go in there, right? I mean, the building, the business part of it can only be,
on that particular parcel, yeah. I mean, if there's other parcels that we add in, that are added to mixed use in that area, but I think, somehow we need to get people to move past I want to know exactly what's going in there to, conceptually, am I okay with this kind of business being in there? It's like if Frank Chioda, says, yeah, I'd like to add my parcel to the mixed use, there's a liquor store there. What else? Actually, I think technically that parcel might be part of the, is that part of the marijuana overlay?
I think not. I think it's just the industrial district that's in the overlay in terms of product manufacturing. The retail, I think you might be able to have retail within business districts.
Can you have it that close to the high school?
No.
It's just outside of the radius.
Oh, the radius?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 100 feet or something like that.
I think it's more than that, but I think that parcel is just outside of that.
Have there been any
back?
Have there been any type of traffic studies? I know I keep going back to traffic and stuff like that, just because this is what I remember years ago, doing stuff in Malden and Medford and Somerville and everything else like that. It was, everyone was so concerned about the traffic, and there were, this, that, these, and those. Has there been any type of, like, the flow rate, what we would expect in terms of how many units, housing units would go in, plus business, and what that would actually look like? Because with Wattaquatic and that whole intersection there, and then we're driving down even more. Do we have any idea what the impact would be? Has there been anything done at all?
So I think what we can do, I think what you should, so take a look at one of the first links I put in this memo is Habitat's rezoning package that they sent to Stowe, just to get a sense of the type of documents that they came up with at that point. It was mostly around marketing, but it makes me think, let's put that back on them and ask them to, produce what they can in terms of their initial thoughts on what a traffic study, could contain, what that might look like. So that's one answer. My second thought is to think about other mixed use developments that we like and that we appreciate, and go talk to those towns and see if they still have traffic studies for those developments.
I mean, DOT is going to do a traffic study for the Rotary, right? Or have they already done one?
I don't know that they have, and it wouldn't be it would be only inclusive of existing zoning and existing developments.
Right.
So thinking about a traffic study for this parcel as well as the parcels across the street, just thinking about that build out analysis and what could be there in the future.
Well, I will say that's what they'll do. They'll put a percentage. They'll add a
Okay.
percentage depending on how many parking spaces, how many, what the business, what the residential, they'll look like. They'll put a, and add, whatever, 25% capacity onto what's already there now. And then they should have like a safety factor, if you will.
Okay.
They know these numbers is what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Well,
it's worth me reaching out to our DPW director and just getting a sense of what has been done, because Randy's been working very closely with engineers on that project. So I'm sure if something has been done, it's available. I think it's worth, at a future meeting, just to have the board, like this board, review the existing bylaw and just see, what changes might we want to make to that bylaw before we extend it. So if there's anything else that we want to add, and again, I realize there's not enough history to go on because we haven't really permitted anyone through it, so we don't have that experience of working with a developer on the bylaw.
Right.
But I think that would be helpful, just to think more about what the goals were, back in 2014, 2016, and have those changed. Are there ways that we can make them more specific? One, I think it could be interesting for you to take a look at the bylaw that we, I can't take credit for it, but that the town of Stowe just passed this last May. They essentially has reworked one of their overlay districts to include much more specific regulations or requests in terms of age targeted housing rather than age restricted housing. They removed one thing that was interesting was they removed the minimum lot size and lot frontage factors to really allow a lot of flexibility for design on site. So we can get pretty creative, and I might pull together some examples of mixed use bylaws from other towns too, just to see, because these things change, every year really with every town meeting that passes. So, we could get some ideas that are pulled from other communities.
Yeah, it's probably definitely worth looking at it again. I know when we did it, we tried to make it kind of general and not put too many specific requirements so that developers could come up with, different plans. But it's definitely worth looking at and see if we can make it better now that, 5 years later, whatever, 7 years later, whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah, we also have, since this time, we also acquired the Taggart parcel too. So there's, in addition to the new intersection alignment, we have a connection to open space that we could, it's another benefit of developing this parcel. You could get more accessibility to that future trail network there. So there's a lot of really interesting, opportunities here with this development. But I think in order to pass something at town meeting, I want residents to know that we've, looked over, a reasonable number of stones to see, what could happen in a few different development scenarios, and actually look at more at a market analysis, both of the business district, but also marketing in terms of housing.
Great.
So maybe I can put something together for our next meeting, just to kind of start this process, because it will take some time. And even, for me, even thinking about next May is a short timeline. Just, I mean, just to be honest, it comes up pretty quickly, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's just, yeah, not quite going to make it into town meeting this year, or not into regular town meeting.
I mean, when are they thinking about doing that work? What's their timeline? Do we know?
I mean, they seem pretty ready to get going. But again, you know, I feel like we're in a really good position to slow down the process and just make sure that we're getting a product that lines up with the town's goals. So, you know, even though they are coming forward with a pretty robust plan at this point, you know, we can still take the time we need.
Has there been any talk at all of moving the DPW out of, have they had any interest in that property? Or I'm just curious, because like, why stop there? And then,
You know, I don't know that. That's another question I can kind of float to Randy and Leslie.
Yeah.
See what the chatter has been.
Years ago, like back when I was on capital planning, they did talk about budgeting, you know, a lot of money to build a real DPW facility. And I feel like they said it wouldn't be located on that same property. So maybe the town has other land someplace that they thought about, but I don't think that's that probably wouldn't fly.
We could offset the cost, you know, by selling that land to a developer, you know, the corner land there. I'm sure, you know, building a new DPW is millions of dollars probably.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense. I mean, just personally thinking long term, I mean, to have that corner be, you know, whether it's mixed use or not, to have the DPW right in the middle just seems
that's
ridiculous to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't. It's like all of a sudden it's going to stop right there when you have that.
Yeah, right.
Because they did put in, but they just put in that new the electronic vehicle.
I mean, you could leave that there, I'm sure.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
But there are lots of grants to put more charging stations in other places too. So
yeah. I think, you know, moving the DPW should be something that master plan committee looks at.
I know that I think Randy is working on a town building, you know, a municipally owned you know, buildings, like space use feasibility study to look further at all of the facilities that the town currently owns and operates, and, you know, trying to think about our capacity. I think basically every department in town is kind of bursting at the seams. So yeah, space is definitely an issue.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we should review the documents here. Yeah, I mean, as far as traffic, I'm sure that, I mean, I think there's some rules of thumb that they can provide, you know, certainly for the residential part of it, you know, how many trips per day, and, you know, what fractional percentage of an increase is that on an overall 117 traffic and such. The retail is a little bit harder, you know, depending on what it is. You know, I mean, if it's you know, if it ends up as a doctor's office, you have a pretty good idea of how many people would be, you know, how many appointments there would be throughout the day. You know, if it's a convenience store, it's a lot harder to, which right across from the high school might be
Desirable location, perhaps.
I didn't want to say, well, desirable from the business's perspective.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what I meant. Yeah.
Especially with the rotary that the kids can run across to get there. Yeah, whether it's desirable or not is is a separate thing. But yeah, but I mean, so I mean, somewhere I'm not sure how I'm not sure how business, how something like that how we do a traffic study on something like that, or get.
They do, they have it. I remember when, because it was a Stop and Shop that was going in, and they had it down to, I mean, they really had it, they did a wonderful presentation on how many cars are on average are gonna be there. It's all based on averages. I've seen it with my own two eyes. They have that, whether it's a convenience store, a Dunkin' Donuts, a Panera, whatever it is, they're gonna take it.
I think if we know, so if we knew a Stop and Shop was going in there, they have all those numbers. If it's a Dunkin's, which couldn't go in there, they have all those numbers. If it's 5,000 square feet of space and we'll figure out what's going in there later, I'm not sure how, is it going to be an art gallery? Is it going to be a convenience store? So I'm not, it's easy if you know what's going in there. It's a lot harder if you're kind of building it on spec and you'll fill it in later on. But I think looking, I think that is information that we should be getting from Habitat is, what is the traffic impact going to be? I don't know if they have any ideas of what the tenants would be there or not.
Well, they already said it at a couple of meetings ago. They said they were looking at Dunks, and that's when I was like, no, can we do something a little different?
Well, they were looking at Dunks, but that runs afoul of fast food bylaw and drive-through bylaws, or prohibitions on both of those. So, that wouldn't cut it. So they're going to have to look at something different.
Yeah, and maybe we can, when we're rethinking this overlay district, we can think more about the types of allowed uses and maybe defining that a little bit more.
Yeah.
I know that you don't want to be too prescriptive about it, but there's a balance.
Yeah. And personally, and I'm not a big fan of the fast food bylaw, because I think it for not having a McDonald's or Dunkin's in town, there's an awful lot of Dunkin's and McDonald's trash around. So that's always been one of the arguments about, if you have fast food, then it's going to increase the amount of trash. Well, the trash is there. So if we have the Dunkin's, then it'll be trash getting into the Stowe. But yeah,
I've seen some bylaws prohibit fast food restaurants by saying that they don't want food establishments that use disposable paraphernalia or products, right? So they're essentially saying if your product is in a throwaway cup, or if it comes in a paper bag, that's not allowed. So there are some pretty funny ways that zoning has indirectly implicated fast food.
Yeah, I think that's spelled out pretty explicitly in the fast food bylaw.
Yeah,
that is one of the rationale that one of the kind of the question of, well, what constitutes fast food, and that's one of the that's kind of one of the criteria.
I personally think, definitely, I prefer the small restaurants, single, non-chain type restaurants. But if there was a Dunkin' Donuts in like the same exact building as the Clinton Savings Bank, and aesthetically it fit into the town, I don't think that personally, I don't see that being a big issue. It's more about the aesthetics of it.
Yeah,
That's why we have to
again,
look at the sign bylaw too.
Right.
Because that gets right at that. Yeah.
Right.
How does it look?
but you look at, I mean, there are McDonald's in some of the, very historic areas, and they blend right into the, right into the local, there are other towns that have very, very strict, some of the places on the Cape and some place like that who, anything even vaguely like a neon color, is banned. And McDonald's and all those, Dunkin's and everybody, adjust to be able to fit in there. We're not going to have a 10-foot Ronald McDonald statue out in front of it here. So yeah, but I'm not sure that I'm not sure that we want to touch the fast food bylaw yet. I'm sure Bruce would prefer it, but I don't think we want to hit that third rail this year.
You're the chairman.
Well, if you want to get up and defend it, then changing it, then I'm all for it.
That would be fun. As long as it's not me.
Like I said, if you want to get up and defend the change,
No,
you can get up and argue with Jonathan about it.
thanks.
Okay. Okay, so we have. We'll see if Bruce comes back with it in the next meeting, but I think we have a lot of work to do on this one. Yeah, and I'm not sure that we'll be ready for town meeting for that or not.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we have to have kind of bylaw by February, really. So it's getting close.
Or Jamie, I mean, just looking at, I'm just looking at the link for the mixed use village overlay, and there's a lot of references to 495, 117 interchange, scattered all the way through it. It was very clear that for whatever reason, that
I wasn't on the subcommittee, but I know that for sure they had specific reasons for centering it around 495. So maybe we could go back to minutes from those subcommittees to see why the decision was made.
Yeah, it's possible that there's enough that has changed within this other area of town that might have led to this area being included before. We just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if part of the argument was, the mixed use is going to be apartments or townhouses, so we want to keep all those commuters, right at the interchange, so they're not gumming up the roads in the rest of town. I don't know. I mean, I think, maybe in our December meeting, I don't know who is on this subcommittee. I don't know if it's worth, inviting a few of them in to discuss it. And
That's
talk
an
to them
idea,
about, talk about what we're thinking about, and see what, partially just to get a kind of historic background on why did they pick that area. And then also, since those are the people that did a lot of the outreach and a lot of the work on getting it passed, they may be able to dust off if they support the expansion of it, they may be able to help us, kind of do the sales on expanding the area.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
So, okay.
This is really helpful. Thank you. I can definitely start kind of chipping away at some of these things and I can, we will have to have a future discussion to clearly, kind of delineate what our goals are, but that's probably more of a focus around the existing language in the bylaw too. So you might want to set something up for a future meeting.
Yeah.
But this sounds good.
Okay. Oh,
Is this a long enough meeting? Do you want to keep?
ready to discuss all the town meeting articles now?
We could just touch upon, I mean, I don't feel like going much more than 10:30, but like, what's the tree protection bylaw?
Oh, yeah. So I of course don't have language yet. So part of this is my thinking here is we should try to prioritize what zoning we do want to accomplish this year, because I think with multiple comprehensive permits going on as well as a master plan process, unfortunately my time is pretty limited. So it would be good to kind of get a sense of the priorities for this year. But the tree protection bylaw is something that we could do either as a zoning bylaw, or we could think about integrating it into subdivision rules and regs. But essentially, a lot of towns are in order to slow down developers from just clear cutting sites, kind of doing some communities do actually like a 1-to-1 caliper inch of, a tree removed, a tree planted. That might be a bit extreme, but I think it is definitely a way to ensure that subdivisions are more intentionally landscaped after construction, and so that specimen trees are preserved during the construction process.
So at a very coarse level, it's kind of extending the tree hearings into the entire subdivision.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I can
identify the real, the trees that should be kept, encourage the developers to disturb as little as possible.
Right. So thinking about, trees above, if you're going in line with the shade tree bylaw, trees above, what is it, 4 inches, 2 inches? I'm forgetting what it is in Bolton right now, but thinking about trees larger than a certain size being replaced.
Kept or replaced, either one.
I thought at some point we put some type of language in the subdivision rules and regs about clear cutting, but it doesn't seem to be being followed. Just seem to come in and just bulldoze the entire thing.
I think in cases, we've asked developers, what they're, and push them to preserve as much of the tree line as they can. But I'm not sure it's ever really been part of the regs.
Yeah, I know we talked about it at one point, but I mean, it would be nice. It would be nice to build around the environment that's there a little bit more than just, especially on a hill, like some developments just completely clear cut everything. So it's just impossible to manage.
Yeah, I mean, I've found that it makes erosion control much harder.
Right.
Particularly if you have a site where someone's able to just clear cut prior to getting a lot of erosion control in place, or prior to getting any drainage in place. But I think so.
Maybe we could look into maybe it's not 4 inches, but like the bigger trees, like 10 inches or more.
Right. Yeah.
Like any tree 10 inches or more, has to be looked at or something. I mean, maybe it's 2 inches, but you know,
Yeah.
something else, some kind of stopgap, you know, where you can
Yeah.
clear, but these big major trees need to stay. And then, if it's within the house line, you have some radius around the house that you can clear or whatever. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd
Yeah.
be interesting to look at.
Or even just a very, a simple, that, up to, 50% of the non-open space area, or, something like that. So,
Yeah.
they can,
I know, like, if you go to
not be
like,
the right number, but,
Mhm.
if you go to I think it's the Northwoods development, Drumlin Farm Road, when you go to that development, I mean, there's lots of mature trees there. It looks really, I really like the look of that development. So they made it work. I mean, it's possible.
Yeah.
well, on, I always forget the name of the little private road off 117, the little
Oh,
5-lot,
Mhm. I've never driven, I haven't driven down there when it's finally been finished, actually.
I mean, I've driven by there, but I know when that was being permitted, they showed this is the limit of cutting that we're going to be doing,
Mhm.
and it preserved most of the, it preserved a huge amount of the.
And you know what? Now that you say that, maybe that is when we were talking about clear
Talking about
cutting.
John Powers Lane.
Yeah,
I think that's it, yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah. Yeah, that one does look nice. I mean, you could also, include language around very specific landscape buffers between, between existing homes and a new home, or around property lines, or around the home versus a new street or an existing road. So I can look at kind of pulling out a few different examples of some of these, not only the tree protection, but also of, earth removal or erosion control, just to show a little bit more, what that looks like.
Mhm.
Also, I think we just did an A&R around, maybe it wasn't ours. We just do one around the soccer field. Maybe that's Lancaster, I don't remember. The corner of Forbush Mill and Still
yeah.
River.
We did.
Was that,
yeah.
that was ours? Yeah.
And then they cut
I
down
mean,
all the trees.
Yeah, basically what we divided out, they cut down every single tree. It was like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know how much we can control that, because that's a single lot.
Right.
And it's, you're allowed to log.
It's their land. Yeah.
Yeah, without wetlands on the property,
But for subdivisions, we could.
For subdivision, we can do a lot. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think those are good.
The sign by law that's a bit of a headache. To try to, but it's worth it to try to rework it so that you're not controlling like language. You're essentially allowing all messaging, no matter the use, to appear the same. So the idea behind the Supreme Court case is that you're not able to provide different restrictions based on the type of use. So some towns had, specific requirements allowing farms to have more signs or larger font on their signs than what the business district might be allowed, or to allow institutional uses to have, very specific, sizes of signs. But again, they wouldn't allow a regular commercial business to have the same style sign. So it's going to take a bit of a review of our sign bylaw to look at ensuring that your freedom of speech is not impacted. But
well, maybe we can't type abuse, but I mean, we could probably do it in the zoning district. So in the residential, if we think an in-home business can have, whatever, 2x4 versus 1x2, I mean, that's probably something we can address.
I'll have to look at if you can do it by district rather than by use. Yeah.
Seems like that would, well, we currently must have that Because there's some, signage bylaw that
Yep.
it can only be so big in the residential zone.
Yes, that's what we currently have. I'll have to review it with town council as well, just to make sure that we are in compliance as is, but I don't know that we are.
Yeah, just because it was valid many years ago and that was put in place doesn't mean that it would hold up if anybody really challenged it now.
Yes, and the case of Reed versus the town of Gilbert, I think that was a 2015 court case, or maybe 16 or 17. So it has changed, rather recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sign bylaw dates long before that, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here, driveway permits. What are we looking at for the driveway permits? Is that just make them enforceable for subdivision?
I think, I spoke with Randy about this months ago. I should circle back with him, but essentially clarifying, I think clarifying the need for driveway permits as it relates to subdivisions. I have to admit, driveway permits the way they is new to me. I'm used to common driveways or shared driveway permits, but a permit for a curb cut for a single family home is a new concept for me. And so I think through conversations around Moderator Way, we were seeing that we need to make it clear whether we mean, is Moderator Way essentially a driveway, or are the specific driveways to each home their own driveway as well?
Yeah. Well, since the intention is that it become a public road, then I would say the individual driveways are what's actually,
Yeah, I
But-
think it just needs to be clarified.
okay.
And yeah.
Okay. And then just decreasing acreage needed for farm for accessory business. Yeah, I think we
Yeah, accessory uses, yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to, as with any of the kind of the zoning related stuff, I think, we need to understand what the impact and who that, who does that help or what's the return on pushing that through town meeting? Is it, if we take it from, what is it now, 10 acres?
I think it's 15.
Or if we take it from 15 to 5, does that, who does that help and what are the bad consequences of that going to be?
Yeah, I
Mark,
agree.
Mark, are you asking about the, when you can consider your land a farm?
No, so basically it's saying, so anybody in residential can be agricultural. But if you're kind of a farmer, if you're like, this bylaw is kind of created to have the Jay's restaurant, for instance, in Neshoba Valley. That's like an accessory business to a farm. And clearly they have enough acreage, but for somebody who had a small farm, 10 acres, and they wanted some small business. Like, I think which we call it, Wendy Harrop, Phineas Wright House on Harvard in 17. Like, she kind of has some agricultural ecotourism type business.
I thought it was 5 acres is the minimum.
No, it's 15. It's 15, but I think she kind of got approved in her special permit, but I'm just saying, like,
only because I looked at that years ago when I first moved, and my lot is 4.9, just
Mhm.
under 5 acres. And I could have sworn I read it was a minimum of 5 acres to consider yourself a farm.
Okay, yeah, well, that's fine, a farm, but we're just saying, can a smaller farm have a secondary business, for that farm? I think also another one is that the animal therapeutic place on 117, they weren't 15 acres, but so they didn't fall into this. I think, I don't quite remember all the details, but like Mark said, it's a very big, what are the implications? What are we trying to do? Exactly. So there's a lot to look at. So if we don't think we have the cycles to share with all the things, maybe we should do it, but it's just, it's a way to
think about how to, I want to look at how it might line up with the Chapter 40A definitions of, agricultural exemptions and allowances for profit for farms, because as for farms, you have to get a certain amount of your profit from the farm itself or from products produced on site. So it's possible that the bylaw doesn't quite line up with, maybe the bylaw is less restrictive or more restrictive or something than the state law, but it would make sense to kind of line them up.
Something to look at. I don't know.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work out, sure, it doesn't work out. I don't think there's a huge pressing need.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting though when you think about wanting to preserve farms and encourage people to.
That's the thing,
Yeah.
Like if they have like a small farm, they have some secondary business that they can
Maybe
sort of couple with it.
Yeah.
But if I've got 5 acres and I throw my excess zucchini out on a farm stand in the summer, does that mean I can write off the property as agricultural? Yeah, I mean, it's.
Yeah, I think the tax exemption kind of. Yeah, I know our building inspector knows quite a bit about this.
Yeah.
So he might be a good one to talk to as well.
Yeah, and in theory, the ag committee should have some thoughts on it too.
Yeah, I mean, without there's no really driving force behind this one. So it's interesting, but it's tough to see how it applies. Exactly.
Okay. Okay, I think we've more than beat this to death for tonight.
Yeah.
So I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Anybody second it?
Everybody.
Okay.
All in favor?
Anybody opposed?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
We're all in favor.
All in favor. Aye.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
All right,
Thank you all so much. This was really great. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.